Avenue in Barnet. They suffered stab wounds in the attack and are now being looked after in hospital.
We need to make sure that when people carry out these activities, they feel the full force of the law. People think they can get away with this. The person who firebombed a few weeks ago is out on bail. That's not full force of the law.
This crisis, it's a crisis for all of us. It's not enough to simply say we stand with Jewish communities. Of course we do, but we must show it and act it. And the responsibility lies with each and every one of us, because it is our fight too.
Let's stop importing people from countries where anti-Semitism is the norm. And if our London Mayor, Sadiq Khan, in his infinite wisdom and belief in diversity, thinks that's the sort of diverse view that it's OK to have on the streets of London and the police don't get involved, don't be shocked, and don't you bloody dare claim to be shocked or upset or care about Jewish people being stabbed on the streets of our capital city in broad daylight. This is on you.
You keep getting proven right every single time. Jews are not safe in this country.
Well, absolutely. No one can be surprised or feeling shocked that this happened. No Jew certainly is. I mean, we had Zach Balansky last week saying this was just a perceived threat. Well, we can see this isn't any perception. This is real. This is happening on the streets. This isn't just an anti-Semitic terror attack. This is an attack on Britain, on the Western liberal democracy and values.
The first politician that uses the word shocking, I might just go and throttle him, because this is anything but shocking. It's the most expected thing is almost overdue, if you ask me, because, I mean, I just left Israel last week. I thought it would be the last time we were woken up by explosions, but clearly not.
The Jewish community is our community, and their safety is our safety. And we have to make it absolutely clear, robust, strong leadership, and this has to stop, because otherwise it's almost being normalised, and it's terrifying, and we're sick of it. Enough's enough.
Our plan is a complete step change in how we protect communities, moving beyond piecemeal responses to a sustained nationwide effort, one that ensures that people across the United Kingdom can live freely and without fear.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Past 6, top of the morning. This is Talk Breakfast. Fast becoming the noisiest breakfast show on the planet. Breaking this morning, Elon Musk backs Talk Breakfast, sharing an exclusive interview from yesterday's show on his social media platform X. 8 million views and counting. The world's richest man backs our campaign to find justice for Henry Novak. Are the police officers who handcuffed this innocent young man as he bled out of his own body guilty of manslaughter? Do you want the body cam footage released? Musk backs Talk. Meanwhile, the BBC banned Farage as it's revealed that the Reform UK leader is unwelcome on their iconic radio show Desert Island Discs because an appearance from Farage would upset woke corporation staff. So my question to you this morning is a simple one. Does the BBC have a problem with conservatives and right-wing people? Does the BBC have a problem with Farage? They really don't know what's coming, do they? Meanwhile, more bad headlines for Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor. How do you solve a problem like Andrew? And as the Manchester 2 do not face a third trial, with you and I paying their legal costs. And with the story of Henry Novak, a man handcuffed as he bled to death, my question to you this morning is a simple one. Is British justice dead? 0344 499 1000. Text the word talk in your message to 87222. You can leave us a voice note. We love a voice note when you know you're busy on a Sunday morning. So much to get through. As the saying goes, let's talk. Delighted to say that Ted Jeffrey is our executive producer this morning. What a pro he is. We've got Dave, the engineer, pressing the buttons. Rory is taking your calls. 0344 499 1000. Do the BBC have a problem with people on the political right? Does it have a left-wing bias? And is British justice dead? Directing our TV output this morning, the brilliant Nahar. All you've got to do, head to YouTube, search Talk, and up we pop. You can see the show, you can hear us on the radio. Let's talk. So much to get through, but we start with the front page of the Mail on Sunday. Reform leader ruled out of Radio 4 show to avoid upsetting woke staff, according to a brand new biography. BBC bias row after Desert Island Discs bans Farage. You couldn't make it up. The BBC obviously has a left-wing bias. It has for at least 30 years. And the problem with that is that we've all got to pay for it. If there is something that you are obliged to pay for, which is a public property, which is essentially part of the public sector, and if the people at the BBC are effectively civil servants, then it's got to be neutral. Now, a private network like LBC or the Guardian newspaper can be left-wing. No problem. It's a business. They choose their own destiny. They decide their own editorial output. The Mirror newspaper is on the left. The Mail, the Telegraph and the Sun, I guess, are on the right because they are private institutions. But the BBC's job is to be neutral and to represent everyone. But here we have the news on the front page of the Mail on Sunday that Farage is banned from Desert Island Discs. Now, this makes no sense whatsoever, given the fact that he's the leader of a major political party, given the fact that he leads a party that accrued 4.5 million votes at the last general election, which is more than the Liberal Democrats. And this party's been in existence for just a few years. Farage has only been its leader for a couple of years. So it is pretty extraordinary that a figure like Farage, arguably the man without whom Brexit would never have happened, is banned from the BBC's flagship radio entertainment show. They don't want his Desert Island Discs. They want Farage on a desert island. And they don't want you to hear from him. I think they're scared of this guy because he might go on Desert Island Discs and he might be charming and he might be authentic and he might say some things that people agree with. And you cannot have that on the BBC, who are determined to pump propaganda into your brains through their website, through their radio stations and through their TV outlets, which of course are dwindling. Establishment media, linear TV as they call it, just a regular telly with the remote control, all of that is dying a slow death. Look at us here at Talk. We are watched by a gazillion people. Our footprint is enormous online, on the radio and on YouTube. This is the new frontier. The BBC don't get it. And here's the point. Talk Breakfast, hosted by yours truly, is the opposite of Desert Island Discs. No one's banned. I don't ban people because I'm not an illiberal thug. I'm not closed-minded. I'm not in a bubble. I'll talk to anyone. You know that. You've watched the show. You've listened. You've seen the clips. Elon is retweeting us now, Ted. I mean, this is wild. Just let that sink in for a moment. Supposedly, this little minnow of a network, Little Talk, which used to be Talk Radio and is now Talk TV and Talk Radio and Talk Online. Little minnow, and now we're retweeted by the most powerful and richest man in the world. 8 million views and counting. With our coverage yesterday on Talk Breakfast of Henry Novak. So no one's banned. And in fact, if you want, Ted, and we do this every day, we can slam in a bid for the Prime Minister. And it's a busy show. I can give him 10 minutes, Dave, because I've got to hit those ad breaks. We got bills to pay. But I'd be so happy to have Sir Keir Starmer in the studio. And I would listen to his answers. You know what I'm like. I'll let him speak. That's what I do. I ask people questions, I let them speak. And every day that we're on air here at Talk, we put bids in for Labour MPs, for people like the Prime Minister, for Cabinet Ministers, lefty journalists, and on the right and on the middle, Greens, Lib Dems, SNP. We don't care. By the way, have you heard about that? Hilarious Nicola Sturgeon. Nicola Sturgeon. Oh, hi, it's so unfair, you know, because really the reason I'm being attacked is because I'm a woman. That's the reason why I'm being attacked. It's got nothing to do with my crooked husband stealing money from a political party and buying a motorhome and parking it at my mother's driveway that I didn't know about because I was so busy. Oh, hi, do you ken? And I wasn't in the kitchen, so I didn't see the expensive espresso machine. You know, that wee jobby from, what's his name? George Clooney, you know, there's Nespresso. Didn't get that, son. And my salt cellars for $2,000. Oh, hey! It's because I'm a woman that they've had to go. I mean, nothing to do with my crooked, stealing, thieving, disgusting piece of work husband, Peter Murrell. And I had all this jewellery in the house and all these fancy clothes and bags and motorhomes and luxury cars and Jaguars. I didn't know because I was so busy trying to separate Scotland from the rest of the United Kingdom. I didn't have time to see all the expensive gifts that were filling up within the house. Nicola Sturgeon is wild. She is on record as saying that the reason she's being attacked is because she's a woman. No, you're not, Nicola. The reason you're being attacked is because your husband is a crook, a thief, a fraudster, a liar, a fake, a low-level reprobate. And you are his wife, and apparently you know nothing. Let's be clear that Nicola Sturgeon didn't know about the Jaguar and the motorhome and the $2,000 salt cellars and the jewellery and the expensive coffee machine because she was never in the kitchen, apparently. Apart from when she was doing campaign videos with STV, in which miraculously she was in her kitchen. Maybe that was photoshopped, I don't know. Anyway, the latest on Nicola, you won't believe this. She's moving to England. You couldn't make it up. The woman that has worked very hard over many years to separate Scotland from the rest of the United Kingdom is moving to England. Why? Well, probably because the education standards are better. There are fewer drug addicts in England. There's a better standard of living. The streets are safer. Now, this is not to attack Scotland because I adore Scotland and we've got so many listeners and viewers in Scotland. And I spent 4 years of my life there in Edinburgh, which is one of the greatest cities on the planet. I adore Scotland. Scotland is perfect. It's just being very badly run. So it's the economy and the public services which are in the toilet, dans la toilette. Thanks to wee Nicola Sturgeon. It's all because I'm a woman that got me, you know, you can. It's so unfair. So she's coming to England. I mean, you couldn't, I don't know where she's going to come. I don't know, she'll go to a border town, she'll be in the Midlands. Wherever she'll be somewhere more prosperous than the country that she has destroyed. but you couldn't make it up. Listen, folks, what do you think? Does the BBC have a left-wing bias? Let me know. 03444991000. Sunday Telegraph, benefit checks watered down. Starmer accused of going easy on welfare cheats to prevent system from collapse. Why don't we just get rid of all of that? Why don't we just guarantee everyone a job and scrap almost every benefit? Why don't we go back to basics? Why don't we have benefits for people who are actually physically disabled? You're blind, you're in a wheelchair, you have, I don't know, MS. Can we not have benefits for, like, proper diseases and proper illness where it's quite clear you can't work? And can we get the people who are having a bad day or they've got anxiety or stress, can we get them working? Because the irony is, it'll do you the world of good if you've got your ADHD and you've got your stress and you've got your, you know, mild anxiety. I've got anxiety too, watching my country go down the toilet. So it's a miracle I'm in today, Dave. But welcome to being self-employed. Also, Arsenal, they did not win the Champions League final. Commiserations to Arsenal fans. It was a very defensive performance. The problem you've got, they got a goal and then they parked the bus. And with that kind of negative football, you're rolling the dice. Exclusive, Raheem Sterling crash witness. He was going fast on the wrong side of the road. This is the former Liverpool star, Raheem Sterling. He's had many caps for England as well. Driving his Lamborghini, allegedly, reportedly, under the influence of drugs, 9 in the morning in his Lambo. What's wrong with these people? How perfect has your life got to be that you can't just behave yourself? How many millions of pounds have you got to have in the bank account? How many fans have you got to have with little kids asking for a selfie? How perfect has your life got to be with mansions and you'll never see a bill for the rest of your life without you needing to take drugs, allegedly, reportedly, and get behind the wheel of a car? What is wrong with these people? And yet, I've got viewers and listeners to this show who work hard at the tail end, perhaps, of a night shift. I spoke to a guy a couple of weeks ago. He was in hour 12 of his working day in his van. Was he high on drugs? No. He was just getting on with it and behaving himself. I'll be honest with you, these days, if you pay your taxes, if you don't break the law, you don't take drugs and get behind the wheel, you're the mug. You're the idiot, actually. Pay your taxes and obey the law, you're the mug. Sunday Times, at Streeting and Hunt intervene on growth crisis. Ex-Health Secretary cut national insurance to boost jobs. Former Chancellor scrap the triple lock. Well, two things there. It's amazing how left-wing Jeremy Hunt has become, a classic example of one of those one nation Tories that is a borderline socialist. This is a guy that spoke admiringly of the government's COVID response and said that we should do what China did and lock everyone up for 2 years. And just helicopter food into their living room. You couldn't make it up. And cut national insurance to boost jobs. Yeah, well, we said that. That's from Wes Streeting. You were in the cabinet when you signed that one off, big man. UK attacks suspect met Iran leader before war. The suspected mastermind of a wave of anti-Semitic attacks in Britain says he met Iran's supreme leader 3 days before the Ayatollah was killed. The bottom line is that's why this war from Donald Trump is messy, but it's the right thing to do. The Observer, Labour rips itself apart. And Sunday Mirror, child safety fears, kids' social media ban within weeks. Tech minister's strongest hint yet over online age block. And last but not least, Sunday Express, Keir's EU reset will keep food inflation high. Lots more to get through. Live in the studio next, legendary Peter Blexley plus tomorrow's front pages.
They found a label now, Ian, which allows them to sit at home on tablets, wasting their time.
Wow.
You know, you've got the welfare state, I've already said, wonderful thing, isn't it? But a safety net, not a way of life.
When you're talking about crimes as vicious as rape, if someone is capable of doing that, they're a threat to society.
If they don't know that all of these things are wrong, then by definition, we need them off the streets.
This is the worst one I've ever come across.
But it's where you've got with this woke, fluffy, liberal, progressive nonsense about anti-racism.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Do you still have faith in British justice and policing? And do the BBC have a left-wing bias? This from Alan. Good morning, Mark. The author of 1984, George Orwell, used to work for the BBC. Any wonder he was inspired to write about the so-called Ministry of Truth, which was, of course, the opposite. Amanda in London. Good morning, Mark. I love the British people. They have spoken. A poke in the eye for Rachel Reeves' treatment of farmers. I'll get to more of your text messages in just a moment. Let's get the front pages. Sunday Mirror, child safety fears, kids social media ban within weeks. Mail on Sunday, BBC bias row after Desert Island Discs bans Farage. And in the Telegraph, benefit checks to be watered down. Live in the studio, former Met Police detective and talk legend Peter Blexley. Good morning, Peter.
Good morning.
So good to see you. We haven't spoken since the conviction of a man who murdered a wonderful young guy, 18 years of age. His name was Henry Novak, and he bled out of his own body as cops handcuffed him. He said, "I'm dying, I've been stabbed, I'm bleeding, I can't breathe." Their answer, the cops said, "I don't think so." He then passed away. Those cops believed the murderer's lie that a racist remark had been made. What's your view of this whole story?
At the very, very best in this situation, those police officers were guilty of a shocking, appalling lack of professional curiosity. As a detective, as a police officer, anybody in law enforcement, curiosity is one of the most important assets you can have. So, of course, when somebody says to you, "I've been stabbed," your curiosity would immediately say, "Where? Show me the wound. How can I help you?" The primary role of an effective police is the protection of life and property. You learn that on day one when you sign up, when you take that oath. So that shocking lack of professional curiosity is the best case scenario I can take from this. The very worst case scenario that I think may come out of these circumstances is that those police officers were racist, inasmuch as they believed the word of a brown man over the word of a white man, thereby displaying an institutional anti-racist, wokery, fluffy, liberati kind of progressive nonsense mindset, which has probably been instilled to them through the teachings that they've had in their training and the environment that they work in. And look how dangerous that can be.
Most definitely. And where is the empathy as this lad lay dying with handcuffs on, essentially being abused and gaslit by two police officers who have a duty of care to every member of the public?
And it goes beyond those officers on the front line. Look at that pathetic temporary Deputy Chief Constable, France, who spoke last week. Utterly appalling. Let's park the insensitivities of his words for a moment, if we may, albeit that was absolutely shocking when he tried to say, well, words to the effect of he was going to die anyway. And I'm sorry if that sounds insensitive, but that really was, in essence, in a nutshell, what he was saying.
It was.
He was just pathetically refusing to acknowledge in any way, shape or form that there had been an element of wrongdoing. He was trying to defend the indefensible, which clearly shows that man is not fit to hold the rank, to be a police officer, to have a warrant card. Bin him off, get rid of him. But he's so typical of so many senior British police officers.
And what we've seen with those cops who handcuffed Henry Novak is that ideology, it blinds you, doesn't it?
Oh, yes.
So that you don't have common sense anymore, that you don't have, as you said, the curiosity, and that you don't have the human empathy.
Yes, but of course, temporary detective chief constable, I'm sorry, that's a long, clunky title. It's what they've given him, not what I've made up. He again said they were kind of going on what they'd been told over the radio as they made their way to the scene. OK, I answered 1,000 calls where you were told what the situation might be.
And you'll be like, well, that's one view.
But
when I get there, I will assess.
Exactly. You take a wide view. You see what's going on. You make those decisions like that in the blink of an eye.
It's the same as a journalist. When I'm in the office preparing the show with Ted Jeffrey, and I have a producer that says, oh, we're hearing that Starmer's going to resign this afternoon, I don't just run on the radio and say that. I check.
Of course.
And I contact my own sources, and Ted checks his sources as well.
Indeed. And that's exactly what you do when you arrive at a situation. As a police officer, you might be going there. It might be a scene that you're told is riddled with violence. So what are you doing? If you're an armed officer, you may just check your weapon in its holster. You may just check your taser. Can I get it in and out of that holster quickly and easily?
Yeah.
That's fine. Even going back to my old days, is my truncheon in my pocket?
I've seen your truncheon.
Yes, thank you very much.
Pleased to see me.
What a whopper. And so on and so forth. You prepare, you prep, but you know that when you arrive on that scene, you've got to rely upon what you see, what you hear, what you're told, how it pans out. You do not go there with an utterly, absolute, fixed and closed-off mindset according to what you're told. No, get there and assess.
And another point I would make, and this featured in the interview yesterday on Talk, which has been shared by Elon Musk, I made the point that why are we handcuffing people for alleged racism anyway? Because racist slurs are disgusting. I don't know why you would be cuffed for them. I don't know why you would be arrested. I would condemn you. I would say it's disgusting. But am I throwing you in the nick? No, not whilst there are rapists and burglars about.
Well, I think...
Am I missing something here?
Oh, I think what was probably going to happen, because, of course, young Henry, rest his soul, we must reinforce
Most
that,
definitely,
tried to escape from his attacker. OK? He tried to run away after being stabbed. So did those police officers, and I suspect this is what they're going to use as some kind of mealy-mouthed and pathetic defence of their actions, they might say, well, there was evidence of him trying to get away, so we handcuffed in order to prevent him doing that again. Excuse me, you handcuffed a man who was bleeding to death.
Most definitely. I don't think he was running anywhere in that state, was he, other than to his nearest A&E?
Exactly. But, of course, you know, there is an expression that the police have for this kind of thing when they arrive on scene into a situation just like this. It's called a dynamic risk assessment. So make that risk assessment immediately. Is there a risk to a member of the public, to wider members of the public, to the officers themselves? That's their expression. They've got their own phrase for it. And clearly they did not do that.
Now, can we also go back to this idea that racist remarks should be such that you are handcuffed and arrested? I would change that because I detest racist remarks.
Yeah.
But we didn't used to handcuff people and arrest them and put them in jail because police used to worry much more about burglars, rapists and murderers.
Yes, indeed.
Am I missing something here? But educate me, Peter.
And now, of course, there's a lot more burglars, rapists and murderers for the police to worry about. And I wonder why that is. Because they've surrendered the streets, of course. Which is kind of another sub.
But would you in your own heart cuff someone for using a horrific slur? Because I wouldn't.
No, there's got to be justification. The use of force in policing needs to be proportionate, needs to be reasonable. Reasonable is the buzzword that kind of applies to all application of force by police officers, whether that be shooting someone, tasering someone, handcuffing someone, taking them to the ground. Is what you're doing reasonable? And of course, handcuffing somebody for what some might say as hurty words, is that reasonable? Is it necessary? Is it proportionate? That's the question that needs to be applied, that needs to be asked, and then you act accordingly.
Well, I think if the coppers got time and they're not on their way to another more serious incident, if you did have two men that were fighting in the street because of a racial slur, I would take the person accused of the racial slur and I would say, did you say that? Did you not say that? Let me tell you, young man, that that's a disgusting thing to say, because it's what cops do. They engage with the public and say, look, you've made this guy very angry. You've used the N-word. It's considered unacceptable. Have a think about your actions. Right, I'm off to catch a burglar. That's as far as I would take it.
Well, that's your view of policing. That would be utterly contradicted by anybody currently serving. And I would say, if somebody's used the N-word by way of a racial slur, they're getting nicked.
Really?
Oh, yeah, you're getting nicked.
But is that appropriate?
Yes, I definitely think so.
Why?
Yeah, well, it's
a disgusting word, but why would you get handcuffed for that?
It's arguably the most vile word in the lexicon of English language these days.
Of course.
And secondly,
of course it is.
Because I'm going to arrest you for using that word, and I would invariably, almost exclusively,
You wouldn't have done that in the 80s, would you? In the 90s?
It depends. It all depends.
No chance,
it all
Peter.
depends on the broader situation that we're talking about. If there's a scene of some confrontation and somebody has used that word, then they are definitely coming with me. They are definitely being nicked.
See, I would say if it was gather all brown people and kill them, then you're cuffed, because that is incitement to violence. If it's globalised the intifada, which we saw on the hate marches, which means bombs in shopping centres, you're cuffed. But the N-word, the P-word, or some offensive remark about a white person like gammon or something, it's horrific, it's not good, I'm furious about it, but I do not see that it should take any police time.
And we're also...
Again, am I missing something?
Whilst we're having a joyous disagreement here, which I'm thoroughly
because I'm all
enjoying.
ears on this.
Yeah. Now, the other thing is, if that person is then, that I've arrested, is going to be placed in the back of a police car where they may be sitting behind the driver of that police car, or they might be sitting behind me as the operator of that police car, they are very much going to be handcuffed, because people will sometimes put their hands around the neck of a police officer.
Of course.
They will try and disable the driver or the passenger.
But I wouldn't have you in the car or the van in the first place for any words that were not incitement to violence. That would be my... But, I mean, you're the expert. You're the policing expert.
No. And it's a very long time since I've been in policing.
But the same with the homophobic slur. If you said someone's a great this or that, again, why should you be cuffed?
If you walk up to somebody in the street and you call them the N-word, I'm nicking you. That is,
and what about if you call a gay person some slur that's anti-gay? Is that nickable as well?
I think depending on... Yeah, I think by and large...
Like F-A-G-G-O-T, for example, would that be... Is that cuffs on? Or?
I'm absolutely convinced that falls within the definition of a public order offence, and you're going to get nicked.
But that's just a casual slur. I mean, some gay people call themselves that.
Well, yes, same as some black people call themselves the N-word. But this is what has been decreed by Parliament and is wider regarded as being acceptable or not. You cannot walk down the street pointing fingers at people and calling them the N-word, same as you can't call people the P-word, and a number of others. I completely agree. You shouldn't be able to walk down the street with or without a placard saying globalise the intifada either. You're going to get your collar felt by me.
And of course
that as well.
Never happens.
Oh,
I mean, only of late they've just suddenly decided it's bad.
Yes, well, that's because they've appeased in the first place, you see. they spent so many weekends appeasing the people on those pro-Palestine marches and allowing them, therefore, to become emboldened with their vileness, that, of course, when you're appeased, you become empowered and you shout more and you shout worse and you shout it louder.
Well, look, folks, it's all about opinions. What a thrill to have the legend that is Peter Bleksley back in the studio. And we are having this conversation. What do you think? Is it appropriate to be handcuffed and or arrested for a racial slur? Let me know your thoughts on that. I'm all ears. I want to learn on this one. For me, anything that pertains to potential violence is a nickable offence. Anything else is there just to be judged and condemned publicly, but I don't think it's a good use of cops' time. But I'm not the expert. Peter is. You're the expert too, because you live with the consequences of these policies. 0344 499 1000. Next up, the BBC ban Farage. We've got the inside story.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Lovely to have your company. This is Talk Breakfast, 6:37. Graham in Alresworth has messaged the show. Nicola Sturgeon is moving to England. You shouldn't be surprised. People who hate England arrive by the boatload every day. It's true, actually. Nicola Sturgeon coming to England. Is that an example of illegal immigration? If you're just joining us, a couple of things about Nicola Sturgeon. One, she says that the reason why we're being critical of her is because she's a woman. Not mentioning that her husband is a crook that stole from the people that generously donated to their party, the SNP. And she's going to apparently look for a house in England because there's just too much attention up in Scotland. Let's take a voice note if we can. Do you still have faith in British justice and policing? Here's Tristan.
Hello, Mark. I can see it's going to be a good show. Yeah, the justice system is broken by far, to be honest with you. The problem you have is that the judicial system focuses on identity, woke politics and political correctness, and it ignores the actual crimes. Unless the crime fits the narrative, there isn't much that they actually do, to be honest with you. And that's the problem we have, is so many things is focused on everything else, like the situation with Nicola Sturgeon. She thinks it's about a woman. No, it's because of your husband has committed tremendous fraud. But this is the thing. It's the same thing with the attacks in Manchester. They go on about racism. No, it's because of you attacked the police and broke a woman's nose. That's how it is. The focus on the actual crime isn't there. It's all on identity politics.
Peter, you'd like to respond?
He absolutely nails a very, very important, apposite and relevant point about Britain in 2026. When anybody is accused of anything, they play the victim card.
Yeah.
All the time. It happens across the board. Anybody accused of wrongdoing, overstepping the mark, they suddenly have to play that card. I'm a victim. And it occurs in crimes. And the other night, for example, I go down to a village in Kent and have a drink with my mate, okay?
Nice.
Friday night.
Nice.
I get an Uber home, right? Please avoid Uber, in my opinion. They're dreadful, right? I couldn't get a minicab.
You prefer a traditional black cab or a minicab?
Yeah. Got an Uber, right? A brown-faced fella is driving it. He's doing 82 mile an hour down the A2, driving me home.
So bad.
I point out to him that the speed limit is 70. I'm trying to photograph his speedometer to get some evidence from the back seat.
Yeah.
He doesn't listen to me. He takes no notice of what I say. So I raise my voice. I add a bit of sternness to what I'm saying and reiterate what I've said earlier. It was a dreadful drive home. When I got to my home, I photographed his car. I jumped straight onto Uber and registered a complaint.
You
about
have
him.
to. 82 is dangerous.
Because the guy's just a danger, and the rest of his driving was also.
He's also his
appalling.
own worst enemy because he's going to lose his licence.
And guess what? Guess what? When Uber did their investigation, whatever that might have been, which clearly included speaking to him, he came back and said, "What? I made racist slurs against him." And of course, I did nothing of the sort. Not one word of any such lies.
Peter, I've known you for years. You don't have a racist bone in your body. And you've just told me on the radio and the telly that you would nick someone for using the N-word. So you're the opposite of racist.
It's the only thing he had to come back as a defence. And of course, he made it up, he lied, and he played the, actually, I'm a victim. It's across the board now. Sturgeon's claiming she's a victim. She was married to a thief. And so it goes on. When do people ever say, do you know what, I did something wrong, I'll take it on the chin, I accept my punishment?
It's absolutely disgusting. We saw it the same with the Manchester 2, who will not face a third trial. Their lawyers were ranting and raving about far-right and Islamophobia. BS. What people were concerned about is widely shared footage of violence towards police officers. Nothing Islamophobic about that.
Point the victim at anyone and they claim they are. Point the finger at anyone and they become the victim. I'm a victim, I'm a victim. But you've broken the law. I'm a victim. It's across the board, everywhere.
Let me tell you that we've got a voice note on policing. This is the lovely Hev. Take a listen to this.
Good morning, Mark and Mr. Blexley. How are we this morning? This is Hev from Kent. Yeah, I feel so incredibly sorry for the family of the young lad that got stabbed. And who the hell do these police officers think they are to be judge and jury? Who the hell do they think they are to make their own mind up and their own decision on what's going on? They didn't look at the situation. They didn't assess the situation. They just made assumptions, and they, basically, they thought that they were judge and jury. And because of that, that poor young man died. I am absolutely disgusted to the core. I feel so incredibly sorry for the family and anybody else that has anything to do with these police officers. I'm appalled. They should be done for manslaughter. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Hev. A couple of things. Before I get to Neville in Norfolk, Peter, is it worth looking at a possible manslaughter scenario, given that these officers have handcuffed a dying man?
Well, there's an independent Office of Police Conduct investigation going on at the moment, and they've already announced that these officers are being dealt with as witnesses. Let that investigation play out. I don't want to say anything that might
Do you have confidence it would be fair?
No, the IOPC is an organisation that's proven time and time again is fundamentally not fit for purpose.
Is it the cops marking their own homework?
To a degree it is, in so much as that a lot of the staff are former police officers, but there's a greater civil service, woke, liberality, progressive mindset that pollutes that organisation. When you then couple it with the fact that it's rampantly inefficient and often useless, it's really not a good mix.
Not a good mix at all. So what you're keeping your counsel on that one, that you wouldn't rule out manslaughter charges?
I mean, this is the same organisation that put NX121 on trial for murder, for shooting Chris Cabba. That's the organisation. I think they'd love to nail a police officer if they possibly could for murder or manslaughter. I think that they would be thrilled if they did that. We'll just have to wait and see.
Fascinating. Neville's in Norfolk. Good morning, Neville. Welcome to Talk Breakfast.
Good morning to you both.
Lovely to have you on. Now, Peter and I have had a fascinating conversation. Although I'm not an expert on policing or the law, Neville, I do not believe that anyone should be handcuffed or arrested for any racist slurs. I think the only time you cuff someone is incitement to violence. What's your view?
You've absolutely nailed it on the head. I normally absolutely agree with Peter Bleksley, but I'm afraid this morning he's fallen into the hurty words trap.
Peter?
No, absolutely not. No, let's just look at some things that are utterly unacceptable. Okay? Using the N word, and I think we all understand the context that we're talking about here, to describe a person of colour, is not a hurty word. It is a deeply, deeply offensive, racist, inescapably racist slur. And you're getting nicked if you say that. If you walk down the street and
That's ridiculous.
Go on, Neville.
Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. What was Guy Gibson's Black Labrador called? It's the bastardisation of language that's being used against people. All right, yes, I agree with Peter, you shouldn't be using it. I get that.
It's a horrible word.
Yeah, yes, maybe, but, you know, it's the bastardisation of language, and to nick somebody for that when somebody's here has been murdered, basically, and ignored by the police, I think it's disgusting attitude.
And also, Neville, I just wonder, I mean, otherwise you need the equivalent for people who are not of colour, wouldn't you? You would need to handcuff someone for honky, for gammon, redneck.
Two-tier police all the way, and I thought Peter was above all that.
Well, we're not going to throw Peter under the bus, I suppose.
No, I don't want to get at him, but he's on there to say his opinion, and I'm here to disagree with it.
Neville,
Peter,
I've got very broad shoulders, bud, and I'm always up for a robust debate. But there are certain words that Parliament and society has decreed are beyond the pale, and you cannot walk down the street calling people.
But isn't that, haven't you, as Neville suggests, fallen into the hurty word trap there? Is that not the essence of woke, which is a hierarchy of victim? So the N-word is worse than coconut, honky, redneck, gammon. That's a hierarchy.
If you are walking down a street, or you are
I wouldn't like to be called gammon.
Or you are in a public place and you are using hate-filled racist language...
I think honky's hate-filled.
Yeah, well, given the circumstances, it might well be, depending upon who's saying it and what the circumstances are. I'm not saying that that's beyond the pale, that you won't get your collar felt. It depends upon the circumstances. But let me just remind something, because Neville made a slight error there, OK? Henry Novak did not use racist language.
At all.
That was an absolute lie that revolting person, Digwa, that convicted murderer, made up and told the police absolutely.
Say he used that word.
No, I know, but I just want it to be clear here. Digwa was a liar and a murderer, and I'm very pleased that a court convicted him, which will, of course, be scant consolation to those who loved Henry.
Neville, quickly before you go, because I'm going to get to an alternative view in just a moment. Your final thoughts on this, Neville?
Well, as I say, it's Orwellian. It's 1984 worrying about words. I'm sorry, I don't agree with it.
Neville, enjoyed your call. Please call me again soon. Thanks for your input on this debate. We're going to hear from Gary in Glasgow next, who is a man of colour who agrees with Peter that you should be arrested if you use certain words. That's next.
They found a label now, Ian, which allows them to sit at home on tablets, wasting their time.
Wow.
You know, you've got the welfare state, I've already said. Wonderful thing, isn't it? but a safety net, not a way of life.
When you're talking about crimes as vicious as rape, if someone is capable of doing that, they're a threat to society.
If they don't know that all of these things are wrong, then by definition, we need them off the streets.
This is the worst one I've ever come across.
But it's where you've got with this woke, fluffy, liberal, progressive nonsense about anti-racism.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Do you still have faith in British policing and justice? Diana in West London. Good morning, Mark, and hello, Peter. Superb show. I never miss it. Diana, thank you for that. I no longer have faith in the police, which is something I never thought I'd hear myself say. They've got to release the body cam footage, 999 transcript, and any other relevant information about the Henry Novak case. This is a lad that was handcuffed as he bled to death. There is so much anger and people are smelling a cover-up. I fear if they obfuscate, things could turn nasty as they did in Southport. P.S. Hilarious, wee cranky Mrs. Doubtfire sketch. Well, Nicola Sturgeon is going to move to England, which is ironic because she tried to break up the United Kingdom and it didn't go very well. Simon, hi, a question for Peter. If a white person uses the N-word, then you would arrest them. But how about when a black person uses the N-word as a badge of respect between each other? Well, of course, what you've said there, Natasha had a similar question. Your argument is that it's not a dangerous or weaponised word among people of colour.
It's context. It's all about context. You can't say that a blanket kind of rule of thumb would apply here and there. It all depends on context. Say, for example, as I walk out of this studio later on this morning, if somebody came up to me, pointed their finger and said, you grey, balding, four-eyed, fat old git, right?
It's a bit harsh.
Well...
Who said that to you? Was that Ted or Dave the engineer?
It's also quite true, to be honest with you, right?
No, it's not. You're a silver fox.
It's a description, okay? You know, am I going to be offended by that? No. Would I engage in some kind of conversation?
Even if you were, it's not the same as being stabbed or mugged, is it?
And I wouldn't expect any police officer to arrest anybody who called me that. I really would not expect that, okay? That's a completely different set of circumstances. But there are certain words that are beyond the pale, that cannot be said, and would lead pretty much invariably, if I was still policing, to you getting your collar felt.
Gary's in Glasgow. Gary, by the way, before we start, are you going to miss Nicola Sturgeon when she moves to England?
Her name is not Nicola Sturgeon. I call her Sturgy. And no, I can't stand the woman. I detest her. I'm an Englishman. I'm stuck up here. But honestly, I've been called, very quickly, one subject, I've been called that I've been mad or whatever because I voted for reform up here where I live. But I'll tell you this now, these people, stupid, these people who voted in SNP again for 19-odd years, unbelievable. Unbelievable. That's a story for another day. And
I know. Gary, you know what I would call it? I would call it Stockholm Syndrome, where you develop an affection for your captor.
Country's ruined. Now,
no. Right, now let's get on to the N-word. Tell me what you think.
Now, I'm angry with you, Mark.
Go for it.
And I'm angry with the person I understand. So let me blur with this. First of all, the person who texted and said about calling people, black people use the N-word, mainly Americans, mainly singers, and calling another person the N-word, a black person calling another person the N-word, is not a racist term. It's not it's not basically based on racism. A white person calling it, and doesn't call it, he calls it out blatantly, shouts it out, blah, blah, which I'll tell you in a second. That's a racist term.
Of course it is.
I don't agree with it. I don't agree with it, Mark, but it's a racist term. Okay, not going to change. Secondly, I'm not of colour. I get really cheesed off. You said it earlier on.
Okay.
I'm not of colour, Mark. I'm a black person. Don't be ashamed to use the word black. I am a black person, born and bred in this country.
Sure.
I have no idea why white people, predominantly are calling people of colour. Now,
I think, Gary, I think it's because we're so confused about what the latest politically correct phraseology is.
But
I mean, that's the problem, isn't it, Gary? I can't keep up with what the correct word is. So I'm so happy that you're a fine black British man. I bet you're an absolute doll, and that's great. But I've just got to keep up with the woke sort of library of words that I'm allowed to use today.
This is talk radio. This is talk radio. You are not going to get cancelled or whatever you want to call it.
True.
You're not going to get yourself in trouble for calling people black. I'm a black man. I was born a black man. I would die a black man, and I'm always going to be a black man. I hate it when people call me of colour. I really do.
That's interesting.
Now, for you to say, for you to say, I absolutely 100% agree with Peter. I was on a bus a few years back in Edinburgh, and something happened. It's a minor incident. And this guy, a couple of guys, I think, guy came up to me and he called me the N-word, okay? Blatantly shouted it out more than one time. People on the bus were ashamed. They had nowhere to look and whatever. The guy got off, whatever. And I'm standing there. I'm 5'1", by the way. I can barely defend myself, okay? I'm 60-odd years of age. So, now, these people were ashamed, etc. Now, this guy was out of order, completely out of order. I had nowhere to turn or whatever, apart from just shrink up in a little ball and get off on my next stop, okay?
Yeah.
Nick and Mark, it's racist. And for you to turn around and say blah, 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 calling somebody honky, nobody calls people a honky no more. That's back in the 70s, Mark.
Most definitely, Gary, we can both agree it's the most horrific word. It has never passed my lips.
How do you stop it then?
Horrendous.
Yeah, but Mark, but
it's
what
the
you're
worst.
saying basically, but then Mark,
I'll never disagree with that.
Saying is, but Mark, but then what you're basically saying is it's okay, fine, people can use it, blah blah, just put them in the corner and tell them off. This is, I don't know what you call it. This is stopping people from asking.
Well, I agree with you, Gary, but if you have the N-word, which we both hate, and you're a fabulous guy, and it saddens me. I'm horrified that happened to you recently. It's horrific, of course. So, but do you not create a hierarchy where the N-word not allowed, but let's say other racial slurs are lower down the kind of offence ladder?
I don't know how old you are. I don't know
52.
how old you are, but I'm right. Okay, I was brought up in the 70s and 80s. I was in the 70s and 80s. I had all this crap of racism.
Yeah.
All of it. Okay. And one of the biggest racist words out there, people hated was being called the N-word.
Of course.
And over the years, it's become illegal. I think it's illegal. I'm not quite sure. Maybe people can tell me, but it's become illegal. I mean,
do we just stick with that, Gary? Do we just decide as a society the N-word is it, and then leave it at that? Because the problem you've got is you've got other things like coconuts, which many people consider racist.
I've been called an Indian woman. An Indian woman, what's what I call her? An Indian woman called me a coconut because I voted Reform. I'm black on the outside and white on the inside.
So should she be cuffed? That bird? Should she be cuffed?
No.
I said bird. Is that allowed?
No. Because she clearly can't be cuffed because that's not the racist term. Understand, Mark. And you're not getting this. I don't think.
Well, no, I do. I wonder, Gary. No, I hear you, but I wonder whether the N-word is
racist term.
Right. But so, Gary,
a racist term. Let's cut it out.
I hear. But maybe then, therefore, is the landing point for this debate that we just agree it's the N-word and nothing else because it is uniquely bad? Should we just say the N-word, everything else, you're okay?
It's become a terminology which people don't like, most people, 98% people are disgusted by it. White, black, brown, green, whatever. Most people are disgusted by it. It shouldn't be used. And Peter's absolutely right. I'm going to get you guys. I know it's come up to news. Peter's absolutely right. If it's heard them, report them. My man, report them. And if it's heard and it's proven, nick them, send them to prison, get them fined, and let them understand they can't use it. Stick up the good work. Nice.
Gary, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the L word on you. Legends! Call me again soon. Really enjoyed our chat. Thank you, big man. Who's not going to miss Nicola Sturgeon when she moves to England. Can you believe it? The brilliant Peter Bexley is staying with us, and I'm so glad about that. What a commentator, what a guy, of course, former top ex-cop as well. And we're going to have a look at the front pages of the papers. More to come. This is Talk.
Two streets! All streets! Two streets! All streets!
got some breaking news here. The Crowborough Army Training Camp could hold male asylum seekers all the way until 2030.
Good.
After the Home Office claimed it would only be for 12 months. Not much ambition involved in that, is there, in terms of solving the migrant crisis?
Absolutely, and the way that the Labour government gaslit the public when the migrants were first moved in there, saying, you know, you guys are absolutely being mad. Crowborough is a quiet, leafy town in East Sussex. These people, you can see, have been pushed to their absolute limit. They're not the types that you usually see protesting about this sort of thing. But that town has been absolutely desecrated.
You're ruining the country. Get Keir Starmer out. Look, England flags. You're useless. Labour Party's useless.
I love our country. And one of the things about our country is good manners. Not very British.
What Labour advisor thought she wasn't going to be heckled at a petrol station in Leeds? Do these politicians actually ever get out and understand what it's like for real working class people? I thought it was British to exercise a right to free speech. That's what Keith Stalin told Trump. That's what White Van Man was exercising yesterday to Richard III. Oh yes, I remember. We're not really allowed our right to free speech in case we criticise the government.
You can't blame people so many decades away from you for the chaos that has been caused by Labour.
This is cheap politics, isn't it, Syrian?
Well, it's stupid politics. I mean, who raised national insurance on part-time workers? Labour. Who's been the stupid people that have wandered down the road and increased taxes on businesses and on individuals? Labour.
A lot of people get very frustrated, especially when the government says, oh, free school meals, you know, for every kid, not just the kids who really need them, free bus passes, free this, free that. None of it's free. It's subsidised and paid for by the taxpayer. And we're in this constant situation where the government's answer to everything is tax us a bit more, take more of our money, and then give some more of it away generously. It's our sodding money they're giving away.
Yeah, exactly. And it's either someone else's money today, another taxpayer, or even worse, it's the money from our future selves. And we keep...
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Three minutes past 7. Happy Sunday, one and all. This is Talk Breakfast. Mark Dolan here with you until 10 a.m. Lots of big stories to get through. Delighted to say that I'm going to be Kevin O'Sullivan this week. 4 till 7 in the afternoon drive time. But we've got lots of stories to get through. Breaking this morning, Elon Musk backs Talk Breakfast, sharing an exclusive interview from yesterday's show on his social media platform X. 8 million views and counting. The world's richest man backs our campaign to find justice for Henry Novak, including a request, a demand no less, to release the body cam footage of this incident as cops handcuffed a dying man. Well, with the Manchester 2 not facing a third trial, and with Henry Novak literally bleeding out of his own body as cops arrest him and handcuff him, my question to you this morning is a simple one. Do you still have faith in British policing and in British justice? Meanwhile, the BBC ban Farage as it's revealed the Reform UK leader is unwelcome on their flagship entertainment radio show Desert Island Discs because an appearance from Nigel Farage would upset woke corporation staff. Do these people not realise the revolution that's coming their way? So what do you think about the BBC? What's going on here? Are they right to ban Farage? Is he too dangerous for Desert Island Discs? Too controversial? Do you think he might go on there and say things that people agree with? May God forbid. Is there a danger that he goes on Desert Island Discs and represents broad public opinion. If that won't cancel you, nothing will. So does the BBC have a left-wing bias? My phone number is 03444991000. The brilliant Rory is taking your calls. He's a triple threat. He's a fine figure of a man with a lilting Irish accent, and he is a premium 5-star journalist. So why don't you have a chat with Rory now? 03444991000. Text the word talk in your message to 87222. Leave us a voice note, and as the saying goes, let's talk. Now, fascinating debate has broken out in the studio because live with me here at Talk Towers is the brilliant former Met Police detective Peter Blexley, who is a very good friend of mine. We worked together for a long, long time. We disagree about something. Now, Peter is an expert on policing. Of course he is. He's the Don, and I am not. But I don't think that horrendous as racial slurs are, that anyone should be handcuffed and arrested for doing so. I think they should be condemned, called out, verbally attacked. You're disgusting, that's monstrous. Get out, no problem. Disowned, fine. Your employers can sack you, absolutely. But handcuffs, arrest, I don't think so. What do you think? 03444991000. Should you ever be arrested for words? Here's a voice note from Peter on policing.
Disgraceful, right? That poor lad. The other bloke was carrying a large bladed weapon, and it is illegal to carry large bladed weapons on our street. So instead of believing this other man, for whatever reason, racist, any reason whatsoever, he should have been nicked immediately for carrying that knife, and the other person should not have been cuffed, especially if there's visible blood coming out of him, right? The first thing they should have been doing then, after they've cuffed the man with the knife, is make sure straight away that the other person is receiving medical attention immediately. And I mean immediately. Yeah, Peter's absolutely correct about when you get to a situation, it has to be assessed there and then on the spot. But with this one, there's something very wrong, isn't there? There's something very wrong indeed, right? These police officers seem to be so undertrained these days, and with such a woke view in their heads. You know, there's not the sort of police officers we want on the street. Anyway, Mark, don't break anything or spill anything down yourself today.
Oh, there you go. It's all kicked off. Peter, I love that voice note, and I love the rather theatrical crash at the end. Keep those voice notes coming. Dave, the engineer, and our brilliant executive producer, Ted Jeffrey, have told me that the voice notes have gone crazy, so we're going to get those over to you. Should you ever be arrested for the words you use? Now, let me tell you something about the Conservative Party. They never replaced Neil Parish when he left the House of Commons, but I'm delighted to say that he joins us now exclusively on Talk Breakfast. Good morning, Neil.
Good morning, Mark. Good to see you. Good to hear everything going on.
I actually mean it. A figure of your stature, knowledge and experience is greatly, sorely missing from the Conservative Party. I really want to know your reaction to what's happened to Henry Novak, an 18-year-old arrested for alleged racism, bleeding out of his own body as he's handcuffed. It's revealed that his murderer lied about this racial slur. What's your overview of the story?
Yeah, I mean, I do think it's heavy policing, isn't it? Heavy-handed policing. Of course, very difficult to know perhaps what's happening exactly at that moment in the police's minds as they do it. Now, I always like to support the police if I can, but I think they do have to be careful. I always say we police by consent in this country. You know, all through COVID, everything else, we needed to have, you know, public need to support the police, and I think they have to be very careful when being so heavy-handed like this. And of course, the trouble is with the police is they never seem to be able to apologise, never seem to be able to say they've got it wrong, because of course, I suppose immediately it goes into a huge legal battle. But I think they do have to be very careful, and I think it was very, very heavy-handed.
Well, it's very interesting language you used there, Neil. I'd love to ask the legendary retired police detective Peter Blexley that question. What was in the heads of those police officers when they arrested a dying man?
May I first mention the brilliant point raised by Mr. Parish in the police's inability to swiftly and openly accept wrongdoing. because, of course, as Mr. Parrish pointed out, they're often fearful that there's going to be lengthy legal proceedings. They're going to get sued. The public would have so much more respect for the police if, when they knew there was incontrovertible evidence of police wrongdoing, they just went, yep, we're sorry, we got it wrong. Not to wait for months and years to elapse before they then read from a piece of paper stuck to a clipboard, lessons will be learned, because everybody goes they won't be. That's nonsense. It's insincere. If the police had some sincerity and they were swift in apologising, they would get a lot more engagement and respect from the public. But anyway, back to your point.
I think that's a fair point.
I think I've reiterated there was a clearly lack of professional curiosity, a lack of ability to dynamically assess the situation and act accordingly. They just got it dreadfully wrong.
Is there an ideology at play as well there?
Yeah.
Were those cops potentially woke?
Yes, it's a college of police.
Whereby the allegation of racism is worse than what could be a violent incident.
That clearly was primary in their thinking, because they engaged themselves in handcuffing somebody who it was alleged made a racist comment, and of course he did not, before actually doing what you should do, which is the preservation of life and property. This is the woke, fluffy, liberal, progressive nonsense ideology rammed into police officers by the College of Policing, the National Police Chiefs Councils, and so many of the universities that run these policing degrees. That's where we've got.
We know, don't we, Neil, that there are pressures on police resources, recruitment, the equipment they've got. But do you think, notwithstanding those practical issues, Neil, that there's a cultural problem within British policing now?
I think it's partly within the police, but I think it's also partly because the politicians, not me necessarily, but politicians generally have actually told the police how they should behave, and there is wokeism out there hugely, and I think that's got to be tackled as well. So I think you can put quite a bit of the blame towards the police on the way this was handled individually, but I also think the system is wrong. We've just got to actually act on people who is the perpetrator, whatever their colour is. It does not matter, for goodness sake. And if it happens to be a black person that's perpetrating, then they must take that action. And so, all of these things have got to be dealt with properly. And I'm afraid, in order to get the respect back for the police, we probably also, the politics of the day, the politicians of the day also have to take some responsibility for being so woke. And it was beginning to come in under the last Conservative government. It's got worse under this lot. And let's free up the police to make the decisions at that moment and make the right decisions. And then if they get it wrong, they have got to say so. And we've got to get this sorted, because at the moment, it'll be, if we do not want to destroy our respect in the British police force, at the end of the day, that pleases nobody, only the villains and only those who want to perpetrate, wrongdoing. So I'm very supportive that we get policing right. I'm not this morning going to criticise the police for everything they do, but sometimes they get it wrong. And also we, the politicians, have got to give clear advice to the police so that when there is a problem, they can go in and sort it out without fear of being then reprimanded. And it's the same with armed police officers. I don't want them actually shooting everybody, but they do have to have those arms, and they do have to be able to use them, and then not immediately a public inquiry when they have, you see. So there's two sides to this story, and I think we need to be clear how we deal with it in the future.
And Neil, it's the fear of being called racist that has been weaponised many times, quite often to pervert the course of justice. Look at the awful grooming gangs who were able to conduct their crimes because local authorities and police officers looked the other way. We've got Salman Abedi, a bearded Arab with a massive backpack at an Ariana Grande concert. The security guard thought it was unusual for a man of that type to be at a pop concert, but he didn't intervene. 20 people dead. You've got medics who recommended that a black man was not accommodated in a secure psychiatric unit because too many black men already are he kills 3 people in Nottingham. The list goes on. Axel Radicubana, whose head teacher flagged up this was a problematic child, and the authorities sat on it because he was black. This issue is not going to go away, and it's got to be dealt with.
It does. And you see, you've got that with going back to the grooming gangs, it was only sort of after several months or a year or so that the names started getting released of who the perpetrators were. And you immediately knew what race they were by their names. And you see, the trouble is we have a cultural problem between some Asian and black men and the way they treat our white women. And there is a problem. And the trouble is the moment you as a politician open your mouth and start to try and discuss, you see, racism is an interesting one because it's racist, I believe, not to be able to discuss it. And this is the problem. We have got to actually go out there, and whatever your colour is, whether you're white, whether you're black, whether you're Asian, we should be able to talk about it, and we should be able to talk about your race and creed, and we should be able to put it right. And that's the problem, Mark, is that everybody is too scared now to actually say anything. I mean, I'm not actually in Parliament now, so in some ways I'm much freer. I mean, I was fairly free when I was there. But even I, because I am no racist, but I had to sort of think sometimes when I was speaking, can I actually say that? And I think, yes, you know, you've got to be careful not to offend, but at the end of the day, we do need to debate these things properly and actually bring them out in the open. And when they're out in the open, it is much better. And that's partly what's happening now, you know, both with policing and with everything at the moment. A lot of it can't be said, and in a way it is covered up because you can't talk about it.
Most definitely. Mail on Sunday, BBC bias row after Desert Island Discs ban Farage. Your reaction, Peter Blexley?
Absolutely ludicrous. It's symptomatic of a deeper rot within the BBC, this kind of political correctness which has gone into overdrive in the last 3 decades or so, and this is what you get. Farage is exactly the sort of politician personality that should be going on Desert Island Discs. Anybody that claims to be the national broadcaster should be representative of views within the nation.
Most definitely. But the concern, apparently, is the safety of corporation staff if Farage appears on that programme.
What's complete and utter drivel? Just absolute nonsense, isn't it? What do you mean safety? What, is Farage going to go in there waving AK-47s? No, of course he isn't. What are they talking about, their safety? It's utter nonsense.
You'll be on there soon. Have they put a bid in yet?
Yeah, I'm going straight to the studio after here.
I wish. You'll shake things up a little bit.
Most of the tracks I would nominate, they'd say, no, you can't play them, Mr. Blexley. No, we'll have to have something.
What sort of tracks will be on there? Rock and roll? Bit of Elvis?
Well, the greatest rock and roll track ever written, We Won't Get Fooled Again by The Who. But they wouldn't let me play all 7 minutes and 49 seconds.
My Way, Frank Sinatra?
No, it wouldn't be. But there will be a ballad from the second greatest ballad singer of all time, Rod Stewart. And then eventually they'd say, look, Mr. Blexley, all your music's from the 70s and the 80s. Can we have something a bit more contemporary?
Yeah, I think you get 8-track selections. So if you go on there, surely every single one should be The Police. There you go. I'm here all week. Neil, what do you make of this? It's a little bit like other public bodies, isn't it? You know, police, the public sector, the judiciary. It needs to be perceived as neutral. The BBC is no different. Why are they banning Farage?
I just don't understand them. I mean, the more it goes on, the less you can seem to understand their logic. I mean, Nigel Farage, you may agree with him, you may not, but he's getting, what, 30% of the vote in this country. He's getting, more votes than anybody else. And therefore, people, either those 30% of the population have got it completely wrong, or Nigel Farage should appear and he should be able to talk about his life. I don't know why they're so fearful for their own security. I suppose in some way Nigel Farage sort of winds up the security side because there's this big issue of how he needs to pay for his own security, you see. So whether that sort of the whole thing is linked, I don't know, but I can see very little. I can't see any justification for banning him for going on a Desert Island Discs, and I'd be very interested to hear his choice of music. And also, let's hear more about the man who could could well be the Prime Minister after the next election. Who knows? A lot of water to flow under the bridge till then. But, let's hear from him. Let's have a broad church. I mean, if they want to pick holes in people, dare I say it, the leader of the Green Party it doesn't appear to be as perfect as all of that. So are they going to ban him as well? Who are they going to ban? They're going to ban everybody in the minute. It's only if it's acceptable to the BBC that you can go on. I mean, that's crazy, isn't it?
It is crazy. Neil, what would your desert island disc be?
Oh, mine would be definitely the Beatles, Yellow Submarine, and there'll be quite a few Beatles, I would think. And I also like classical music. Green Sleeves, you see, I'm a farmer. I love Green Sleeves. That's one of my favourites. So yeah, I won't be morbid, but I'll tell you one day where I shall use Green Sleeves for absolutely certain. So, but no, I think a good mixture of music is always a good thing. My wife she's the cultured one, and she's got me onto classical music over the years.
Yes, Sue is definitely very cultivated. Your better half, as it should be, Neil. We're going to hang on to you, and I'm delighted to say Peter Blexley has agreed to join us for another few minutes on the show. So, folks, we're having a big conversation today. What about that? The BBC, does it have a left-wing bias? Do you still have faith in British policing and justice? Here's a voice note from David.
Morning, Mark. Morning, Peter. Great show as normal. So, if you nick somebody, Peter, for using the N-word, which is disgusting, as you said, and then he turns around and says, but I identify as black, what'd you do then? Just a question.
Well, Peter Blexley will answer that next. You're listening to Talk Breakfast. We're taking your calls as well. Should you ever be arrested for using certain words? 7:21. Don't go anywhere.
They found a label now, Ian, which allows them to sit at home on tablets, wasting their time.
Wow.
You've got the welfare state, I've already said, wonderful thing, isn't it? But a safety net, not a way of life.
When you're talking about crimes as vicious as rape, if someone is capable of doing that, they're a threat to society.
If they don't know that all of these things are wrong, then by definition, we need them off the streets.
This is the worst one I've ever come across.
But it's where you've got with this woke, fluffy, liberal, progressive nonsense about anti-racism.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
You are listening to Talk Breakfast. Mark Dolan with you until 10 a.m. Dolan's Dispatch coming at 9 a.m. It's my view that British policing and justice are broken, and I've got my answer as to how we fix it. That's Dolan's Dispatch at 9 a.m. You won't want to miss it. Elon Musk will probably retweet it because the richest man in the world backs Talk Breakfast campaign for justice for Henry Novak. He shared my interview with Ben Habib from yesterday's show on X. It's on 8 million views and counting. This is fast becoming the noisiest breakfast show on the planet. And it's nothing without you. Your messages, your texts, your company, of course, and your calls. Gemma is in Lichfield. Good morning, Gemma.
Morning, Mark.
Lovely to have you on. Now, let's get people up to speed in case they're just joining us. Mail on Sunday, front page. BBC bias row after Desert Island Discs ban Nigel Farage. Your reaction?
I can't believe this is happening. This poor man.
Well, I know. I mean, we all got to wonder, what would Nigel's Desert Island Discs be,
Right.
Gemma?
The thing is, right, nobody knows.
I'm still standing.
Presume to know. Oh, well, Elton John
True blue.
doing so.
I guess that's why they call it the turquoise.
I guess that's why they call it. No, you can't get me on that one. I think this man likes German music. I bet you any money he's a fan of Bach.
Oh, that's good. I was wondering whether you were going to go down the Wagner route, which could be...
No, I wasn't going to go down that route. I haven't got a flight mouse.
What does this tell us, Gemma? By the way, can I just say, and I've got a message from Mike in Somerset, the BBC have replied that they do not ban anyone from Desert Island Discs.
But they ban him.
He's not been on, has he?
Well, that's ridiculous. Does he want to go on it?
Well, I mean, I think he would, because Nigel wants to spread the word, really. You know,
Well, you need to remind him that he's allowed a book, and I think it's one object as well as however many tracks on Desert Island.
Well, yeah, I mean, you wonder what the object would be, you wonder what the book would be. But, Gemma, what does this tell us about the BBC?
This tells us that the BBC hasn't got a clue what they're doing, that they're seeking the approval of the masses to denigrate, I think it is, or denigrate, a man who speaks to the people, not all the people, but the common person.
Yeah.
And if I were him, if I were to choose a piece of music for that man, it would be opera, without a shadow of a doubt.
Is that because of the grand scale of opera, the drama of it?
It would be Nessun Dorma.
Oh, yeah, well, you could do a lot worse than that. Do you fancy giving us a couple of bars of Nessun Dorma this morning, Gemma?
Nessun Dorma, no. What about the book, though, and the object? The book has got to be what? The Bible, I'm presuming, or maybe not.
Well, I'm sure Nigel is
What about
God-fearing.
the Magna Carta? Probably take that.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder.
Take that.
I thought
Take
maybe
that.
something military like Bravo 20.
Oh, yes, I know. Farewell to the common man.
I tell you what, I've never had such a creative conversation.
Oh, bless your heart, Mark.
But Gemma, let's get him on Desert Island
Get him
Disc.
on,
What are the
right.
BBC afraid of?
Everything. They have become everything that Doctor Who makes everyone scared of. They are the Daleks of the universe. They are scared of all of us, and they're hiding in their little bunker, waiting to pounce on the next man or woman that dares to speak their mind and exercise free speech for this nation of the United Kingdom and the Great Britain.
Gemma, have an excellent Sunday. What a wonderful call. Put a smile on all of our faces. With me in the studio, legendary ex-cop Peter Blexley and the highly respected former politician, ex-Tory MP and now farmer, the brilliant, the wonderful Neil Parish. Neil, the BBC does have a credibility problem.
It certainly does, and I think it does have to be a broad church. It represents all of us, I would have thought probably a lot of people who listen to Radio 4, if you think of the actual age range and listen to the BBC, they would be of probably quite a lot of Nigel Farage's voters, actually. So I can't see really for one moment why they wouldn't have him on, and I think it'd be interesting to see if we get any response from the BBC, won't it? It'll be interesting to see now. Perhaps Nigel will get an invitation, because if I was the BBC, that would be the way I would handle it, Mark, and show that they're not as woke as we think they are. If they don't, then we've almost proved the case, haven't we? That they are woke and they are scared of their own shadows, and I don't know who they think they're. I mean, who do they think they're actually pleasing at the end of the day? Because I mean, fewer and fewer people, you know, my son's generation and younger, are not really watching the BBC at all, and it really is, you know, I think they have a real problem.
I think they do. We've got a developing story this morning. This from a good friend of the show, Neil and Peter, Kate Ferguson, political editor of The Sun on Sunday, who reveals that if he becomes Prime Minister, Andy Burnham is weighing up the possibility of a snap general election. Neil Parish, your reaction?
I think that would be possible, and I mean it would be, as it would, you'd say in Yes Minister, that would be a brave decision, Minister or Prime Minister. But it's possible, because don't forget, if he does beat Reform, and he's still got to beat Reform at the by-election, but it's beginning to look like it could be possible by the opinion polls and everything else, and Reform candidates had a few hiccups as well, so it's an interesting one, and of course he'll be shoulder high if he does beat Reform. He'll go into, you know, the Labour Party. He will win the leadership contests. He hopes he will get a bounce, and he could well go for a general election. It might be just as well to clear the air anyway. New leader of the Labour Party, have a general election. That's what all political parties ask for. But I think it would be, the odds are, I think probably not. But it's not without, it's a possibility.
Well, Peter, I've got no doubt that many of our viewers and listeners would love a general election. I wonder whether he might consider it, Burnham, if he gets into number 10, A, to get his own mandate, and B, because perhaps he thinks that Reform aren't ready to fight a campaign.
To the wonderful people of Makerfield, I say this, and it's only a few words. Go online and search Andy Burnham, Operation Augusta. Read whatever you can about Burnham and Operation Augusta, and then please feel free to message me. Of voting not vote for.
Now, the bottom line is you're listening to Talk Breakfast. It is 7:32. We have the official candidates for the 2026 Makerfield by-election. Jake Austin, Lib Dems, Count Binface Party, Andy Burnham, Labour, Dan Clark, Libertarian, John Dyer, Independent, Ed Gemmell, Climate Party, Paul Gould, Independent, Howling Loud Hope, official Monster Raving, Robert Kenyon, Reform UK, Robert Pownall, Independent, Rebecca Shepherd, Restore Britain, Sarah Wakefield, Green Party, Peter Ward, Rejoin EU, and Michael Winstanley, Conservatives. David, get me a voice note up when you're ready, because it's all about the interaction this morning. We've got so many stories that we are juggling. John in Poole, good morning all. This debate on racist words. If Peter is so concerned about the so-called N-word, then may I suggest he takes a trip to South Africa, where a certain political party and the certain leader openly sings "Kill the White Farmers." What would he do about that? That is the real world, Peter. Well, Peter, you would no doubt cuff that politician, wouldn't you?
Most definitely.
Yeah, and we can all agree on that one. So, look, lots more to come. What about the BBC story here? They ban Farage, although they've denied it, but miraculously, he's not been on Desert Island Discs. Dave in South Gloucestershire says, "Hi, Mark. Doesn't the apparent fact that certain members of the BBC staff are affected adversely by the views of one public figure whose political position doesn't agree with their own seem to suggest that those members of staff work for the wrong organisation? As you pointed out, the BBC, as the national broadcaster, must reflect the views of the nation as a whole and not one section or another, and certainly not allow their programming editorial processes to be influenced by the feelings of some members of their staff. Before I let you go, both of you gentlemen, let's just get a quick line, if I may, from you, Peter, first. Sir Keir Starmer is watering down checks on benefits claimants to prevent the welfare system from collapsing under a record backlog of mental health cases. Officials have warned that the welfare assessment system is at risk of falling over, and there's an immediate need to make changes. What do you make of that story, Neil?
Well, I think, they've got to actually interview people physically. You've got to meet somebody and not do all of this online. And if you're ever going to get to a situation where those that are mentally sick and need benefit and those that are not, and there is a huge problem, and they're making it worse. And I think by watering it down, the bill will only go higher. I'm very happy to help those that have got real problems, but I think there are people out there that are literally swinging the lead, and I think we've got to sort it. But you've got to sort it face to face, and it may cost money to sort, but in the end you would save money, because you are putting so many people onto benefits now that probably shouldn't be on there. They also need help to get back into work. That would be a much better solution. And I can rant and rave about it all morning, but you've got to have the idea that everything can be done online. All of the benefits now, many of them have been done online. There's never been more abuse to the system, and we started it. I'll hold my hand up, but we got to get face to face now to sort this out, otherwise it just gets worse and worse. And I think Starmer, as usual, is just taking the easy way out, and of course he's a lame duck and getting lamer all the time.
Most definitely. Peter, our heart goes out, doesn't it, to viewers and listeners who are struggling with genuine mental health issues, bipolar disorder. You yourself have had, some challenging moments with your mental health, and you were sectioned, weren't you, for a while?
Not sectioned, I was voluntary, but I've been hospitalised twice over a catastrophic mental health breakdown, and to this very day I still take a tiny maintenance dose of medication, even though my wonderful GP has wanted me to come off it for some years, because I'm happy, I'm healthy, I'm fit, I'm well, I work, pay me taxes, contribute and have a great time. Believe you me, if you are in the grip of your deepest, darkest days of your mental health collapse, please believe me when I say the sun will shine in your light once again. Just believe, hang on to those lucid moments, take the meds, you'll get better. I have no medical qualifications. That's just based on my own experience. I think that's a wonderful
message, and I want to congratulate you on your amazing journey. You had this incredible career as a cop, then you had major problems in your life, a lot of it out with your control. You struggled, you got better, and here you are today, on tour, top broadcaster, top ex-cop.
Thank you. But before I go, and you're very kind, let me just take issue with you over something that happened at the top of the 6 o'clock, OK? Now, if you've only just tuned in, little lesson to you, please tune in at 6 to hear Mark. You called me a mug because I pay my taxes and I obey the law. You said any of us that do that, we are mugs.
We are, aren't we?
On behalf of all your wonderful audience members who pay their taxes and obey the law, and me, we're not mugs, Mr. Dolan, with a backbone of Alarm Clock Britain, Common Sense Britain, this wonderful nation. And we're not giving up without a fight, and we're going to fight to get this nation back to where it needs to be.
Objection sustained. Can I thank two legends? I'm such a big fan of both of yours. Peter Blexley, especially when he's furious with me, and the wonderful Neil Parish as well. Neil, go and have a good Sunday. Good luck with the livestock, and we'll speak soon. My thanks to Peter Blexley, Neil Parish. Do you still have faith in British policing and justice? Is the BBC biased? Your calls next, 0344 499 1000. This is Talk. We're going to play out with a voice note from Dallas.
Hi, morning, Mark and Peter. This is Dallas in Botswana. Well, it's an absolute first this morning. I don't agree with something that Peter Blexley said. That's amazing. I'm right with Neville here. Calling someone a rude word, even the N word or the P word, would make you not a very nice person, but it should never make you a criminal. It is not an offence to be offensive, and that's a fact. So I don't know. If that is the law, then, as we used to say, the law is an ass. Have a great day, both of you. And Peter, I love you. Okay, bye.
Thank you, Dallas. Your call's next, 7:39. This is Talk Breakfast.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Folks, this show is getting so massive now, and Elon Musk backs Talk Breakfast. He's been watching the show. Let that sink in. Elon Musk is watching Talk Breakfast. And he was fascinated by my interview with Ben Habib yesterday, so much so that he shared that interview on the social media platform X, which is now on 8 million views and counting. And it was an amazing thing. He wants justice for Henry Novak, who, as he was bleeding to death, was handcuffed by police officers. Completely insane. I think that you should not be arrested for any word. You should be arrested only for the incitement to violence. But that's only my opinion. Gary in Glasgow is a black man who disagrees with me. Big Wayne is in Essex. Good morning, Wayne.
Yeah, I'm enjoying the show as usual.
Thank you, Wayne.
Also, yeah, just a quick one. I listen to you all the time, and our lovely Alex Phillips and Charlie is great to the station.
I appreciate that, Wayne. That's very nice of you, man.
Yeah, I listened to your show yesterday, and I listened to the bit about having a baby, etc. And it's great that Elon's behind that. Really good. But the reason why I was calling today is I was hoping to, if you could afford me a little bit of time for a debate. You know, I know you haven't got all the time in the world.
Go for it, Wayne.
Yeah. I have to be absolutely honest with myself, you and the listeners and the station. I really believe the police force they've literally blown all their credibility, Mark. And it's been decades of decay. And you know, using truncheons in the miners' strike and using physical violence on people who were voting to you know, they were striking to you know, to protect their jobs,
to save their livelihood, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Mark, I don't agree with any physical violence whatsoever. I don't condone it, and it's shameful. And another thing, if you don't mind me bringing to your attention, in relation, I really appreciated Gary, your black caller
from Glasgow.
Yeah. And I must be honest, I can remember a time when PC was like, you can't call someone a person of colour, that's racist. And then you call them black.
So confusing.
You see what I'm saying?
Keep up with the word bingo. I mean, can I tell you, I used to work, thank God I work for Talk now, which has got the best management, and they've all got brains and common sense here, right?
Yeah,
wait for this. Are you ready for this? I used to work for a company where I was told that you have to say BAME, okay, BAME.
if you're talking about a black person or anybody that has a different skin colour to white. You've got to say BAME. That was politically correct. Wayne, a year... OK, that's fine. I'll say BAME, OK? Then a couple of years went by, and then I got in trouble for saying BAME.
Yeah.
And they said, you can't say BAME. That's unacceptable. That's borderline racist. And I said, wait a minute. I thought it was politically correct. And they said, no. Now you have to say... Are you ready for this, Wayne? Black and minority ethnic is
My God, what a sentence.
But A, it's a mouthful, but B, it stands for BAME. So as long as you say the words, it's not racist, but if you say BAME, it is. Make it make sense, Wayne.
Yeah. Just another thing before you let me go. Are you there, Mark?
Never going to let you go, Wayne. You're here for keeps.
Thank you very much, yeah. Look, I'll be fair. I've written a letter to Ofcom because I'm very disturbed.
What have I done now?
Yeah, no, it's not you, no. I'm quite disturbed about what actually gets put on the, the media sites, the platforms. I don't want to mention names,
Sure.
But it's like, we're having a debate about the N word and the P word, and also like the C word, coconut, and I mean, what are we going to do with the 26 letters of the alphabet here? I mean, I get very offended with the K word. I get very offended with the I word. I get very offended with the M word when you go online and I'm not being horrible, but Islamic stuff online, they refer to white people as dhimmis and infidels, and I find that extremely offensive.
I agree. What about Zionist? That could be racist, exactly. Big Wayne.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, when I called in, I was wondering whether I'd be allowed to come online, but as usual, it makes sense.
Of course it does.
Talk Radio. I absolutely adore the station, and I'm a loyal fan. And I really appreciate you giving me the time, and the station giving me the time to air my opinion. And Peter Blexley, I have the utmost respect for that police officer. A great deal, because he says it how it is, and I really appreciate that, Mark.
Listen, Wayne, you'll always have time on this show, and that's the point of talk. It belongs to you, and thank you for your kind words. We are nothing without our army of viewers and listeners, one of whom now is Elon Musk. But Wayne, you're up there with the richest man in the world. Why? Because you've talked so much sense. Jeff's in Hastings. Morning, Jeff.
Oh, hello, Mark. Good morning. And good morning, Peter, my favourite copper of all time.
Oh, he's good. He doesn't mess around. Now, Jeff, what do you think about Britain and British policing and all of that?
Well, British policing, they're, as you said earlier, they're definitely being told what to say and do. But my point today, Mark and Pete, is that this N-word and what you've got to remember is that the media and television is actually showing things on telly that the kids are picking up on, and it's going to be an ongoing thing. Now, first of all, if people, I'm for fairness, yeah. I don't like people picking on other people, whether they're black, white, or whatever, yeah. So I'm on that black fella's side from Scotland today. He shouldn't have got
Gary
for all that, yeah, right. He shouldn't have to go through that. And I've got a lot of black friends that are good guys, and I know a few that are naughty. Now, first of all, WOG, when you call a black person that, historically, I believe, and you can, not condemn me, but correct me on this, WOG means Western Overseas Gentleman, yeah?
Right.
Now, the N-word it derives from Nigerian. It's short for Nigerian, yeah? It's not an offensive thing. Now, when they're I'm not your nigger. They're using it, and these poor kids on telly think it's funny because they are very comical people, the blackfellas. They're very comical and funny. But if they're going to use them words on comedies that kids are going to watch, kids are going to pick up on it, mate.
Jeff?
So
yeah.
It's all down to the media doing it. And as I say, in fairness, you've got to respect whatever colour they are. I'm very respectful of black people, Pakistanis even, because they're funny. I've got them downstairs in the shop, and they're lovely people. So we've got to put the borderline between the good and the bad.
Oh, Jeff, I agree. And can we just go after violent people? Someone that's going to go around stabbing you, punching you, mugging you. I'm not sure about this emotional violence stuff, Ted. What is that? What is emotional violence? This language is horrific. I hate it, especially the N-word, which is especially bad. But are you going to handcuff people for words? If it's, you know, gather all Jewish people or all brown people, all Irish people and kill them, that's clearly incitement to violence. But anything below that threshold, I think we condemn it. But I'm not sure you arrest people, not whilst there's muggings going on every 10 seconds and God knows what else. Lots more to come. This is Talk Breakfast.
Breaking news this morning revealed that under the Terrorist Act, 242 people were arrested in the year to June of this year.
That's something you can indulge in as to all the people who aren't going to prison because, well, there's no prison spaces.
So this is a Talk exclusive we've been looking at.
I said, you take these cuffs off me and speak to me like a human being rather than a common criminal.
You're just left wondering, does these people who lead us actually hate Britain? Yeah. Do they not love our country and everything that we've stood for?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome to Talk Breakfast, Elon Musk's favourite radio and TV show. He's been sharing clips from Talk Breakfast and my interview with Ben Habib that happened yesterday. It's now on 8 million views and counting. You can check out my X account at Mr. Mark Dolan to see the clip involved. Folks, we've got some developing news. Groups linked to the Iranian regime are sponsoring migrant visas into the UK. Let's get reaction from a very good friend of the show, Robert Bates, Research Director at the Centre for Migration Control. Good morning, Robert.
Morning, Mark. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you with us on a Sunday morning. Thank you so much for making the time. Well, this is a deeply troubling development, isn't it?
I think it's a really concerning development, and I almost couldn't believe it when I first spotted it. I think, unfortunately, the register of sponsors, which is effectively those organisations, the Home Offices, said, yeah, you can have carte blanche to bring into the country, to hand out certificates of sponsorship, sponsor visas to whoever you want. I think, unfortunately, that has exploded in the last few years. It's increased fourfold. We're now on about 150,000 organisations around the country with this licence. So you would say that's probably too big for the Home Office to be keeping proper tabs on everyone that's on there. And unfortunately, what we have identified is organisations that are linked to the Iranian regime, have had directors appointed by the Iranian regime, have taught school children about the wonders of Soleimani, the former IRGC commander, that have praised the Ayatollah, held vigils after his death, have talked about the Islamic Revolution being a glorious event. These are all organisations that are not just on the register, but have actually handed out sponsorships that have been used as part of visa applications. So unfortunately, we don't actually know whether they resulted in the visa being issued and the individual coming to the UK. But I think nonetheless, there is a clear national security element now to not just the illegal migration, but the legal migration system, which has been far too lenient and has exploded into such a scale of unmanageable size that I think it's very, very likely that there are individuals coming through the net now legally who pose a very, very severe risk to the national security and well-being of this country. And I think it's time that the Home Office either went through and vetted all 147,000 businesses, which seems like a big task, or they closed the list and started saying individual organisations are going to have to reapply, because this is something that is accumulating now. We're seeing more and more businesses being added, 27,000 since Labour took into power. Some of those organisations have previously praised the Iranian regime or have praised the Ayatollah as well. So I think this is unfortunately something that needs to happen because, frankly, the risks are too great.
Most definitely. Some of the worst regimes in the world, Robert, have their fingerprints on legal and illegal immigration, don't they? The authorities have cited possibly people crossing on small boats via the Channel who have links to the Iranian regime, maybe sponsored by this regime. And then, of course, we have the wider terror links that are connected to illegal immigration, which is a reminder that this isn't just a financial, economic and societal problem. It's a national security one too.
That's absolutely right. And you know, if a hostile regime wanted to do harm to Britain and get their guys on the inside, then the small boats crisis would be a perfect way to go about doing that. Of course, we heard reports a couple of weeks ago that the Belgian police were simply refusing to stop migrants from actually leaving their shores and coming to Britain because they had very good intelligence that there were individuals that had served in the military of Afghanistan or Iraq operating on those beaches.
Crazy.
As well. And this is kind of what people do mean when they refer to fighting age males. It's not just the fact that these are males that are in their 20s coming across, it's the fact that these are males that have come from cultures where they're very likely to have either done military service or to have been very, very exposed to combat and conflict throughout their life, and thus have had to adapt and adopt a mindset that is perhaps a bit more aggressive, shall we say. And I think it's about time that this is recognised. I don't know how much longer the Home Office can put off recognising the small boats crisis as a national security crisis, because once they recognise that, we can start having a proper conversation about what needs to be done, which is detention and deportation. That isn't just about acting as a deterrent to stop future crossings. It is also now, at this point, about keeping the people, the British people, on our streets safe. I don't know how many more crimes we have to see committed, how many more murders or rapes we have to have reported before actually someone recognises this is where it's escalated to.
If 1% of the people coming into the country illegally are criminals or have terror links, it is too many, because you just need one Manchester Arena, one Golders Green, and the consequences are tragic. What about this then? And it's not a surprise, is it, Robert? 50,000 migrants may not have left Britain after their visas ended last year.
Yeah, I think this is great work from the Neil O'Brien, the Tory MP, who's effectively worked out that when the ONS talks about its net migration figures, it is nothing but a guess. It simply doesn't know how many individuals have actually left the country long term. It simply assumes that because their visa is recorded as having had an expiry date, they will have gone. And previous studies from the Home Office show that that just simply isn't the case. So he's found in 1 year, 50,000 may not have left at the end of their visa. They could have just completely disappeared and added to the burgeoning illegal migrant population in Britain, or they could have done a clever trick that happens just before your visa expires, which is you put in another application, and then rather than being required to leave whilst that application is outstanding, you get given what's called 3C leave, and you're allowed to sort of keep all the rights that you did have whilst you're actually on a legal visa. And that's what happens with a lot of asylum claims, actually, is an individual waits for their study visa to reach the sort of 11th hour, and then they launch an asylum application, and then that means whilst they are an asylum seeker, they are still allowed to work. We hear a lot from people being told, from people on the left telling us that asylum seekers aren't allowed to work. Well, 40% of individuals that are applying for asylum are on visas, and there's a very, very strong likelihood that a large number of them are still having that right to work in the UK. But I think it's great work, but we need much better data collection from the ONS if we're to have a real picture of what's going on at our borders, because at the moment we are just blind guessing.
Well, is it incompetence or is it a degree of gaslighting from the authorities, in your view, Robert?
I think it is probably more incompetence. I think a lot of the people in the ONS are sort of data-driven people and are sort of almost apolitical, and I think that is right. I think it undoubtedly helps the government to not talk about the huge data problems that we do have, because it allows them to present a much rosier picture. How much did we see them the other week talking about them having brought net migration down in such a huge proportion? I think undoubtedly these kind of huge problems with our data allow a blurred picture to be presented to the public by politicians that don't actually care about the truth in solving the problem. But I would argue when it comes to the ONS, it probably is more likely incompetence, not malice.
Robert, we always love having you on the show. You speak so well, and we appreciate the important work you do at the Centre for Migration Control. Robert Bates there, who's the director of that. Thank you, and go and have a good Sunday, Robert. It's important that we know what's going on. This is Talk Breakfast.
From the Sky News Centre at 8. There have been more than 400 arrests.
You know, you have to remember that Peter Murrell has been the chief executive of the SNP for nigh on a quarter of a century. He's been with Nicola Sturgeon since 2003. She said that she didn't have access to his personal records. They had separate bank accounts, so we can take, well, what you want from all of that. The list that you gave is unbelievable. 124,000 in a camper van, Fortnum and Mason's picnic hampers, a couple of lawnmowers, one for 3,000 quid, 3 dynamic Savile umbrellas, £970. The list goes. A wine coaster. I needed to look up what a wine coaster was. 3,500 quid. So the list goes on.
When you're talking about crimes as vicious as rape, serial murder, really depraved crimes, it's quite clear to me that the usual considerations around whether you should be lenient because of this context, whether or not there should be more room for rehabilitation in that context, just don't apply. From the simple commonsensical basis that if someone is capable of doing that, they're a threat to society.
But this is the thing,
I don't want to take that risk.
If these kids genuinely, and they are kids, everyone involved is a kid. I mean, it's just absolutely travesty. If they don't know that all of these things are wrong, then by definition, we need them off the street. Yeah.
So there's now a label for children who skip school. You know, parents can't sort it out. In the old days, I used to think that skipping school was against the law. And parents used to be taken to court. Well, no longer anymore. They found a label now, Ian, which allows them to sit at home. Again, I keep saying, on tablets, wasting their time.
Wow.
Universities. Let's get everyone going to university. Well, I think a fundamental job of education is to prepare children for the society they're going to live in a positive way, i.e. prepare them for a job. You've got the welfare state, I've already said, wonderful thing, isn't it? But a safety net, not a way of life.
Henry Novak's last words were, "I can't breathe," as he was handcuffed, having been stabbed not only in the front but in the back as well, Okay, he stabbed him in the chest twice, stabbed him in the face once, stabbed him in the back of the leg twice. I mean, what an attack. Let's wait and see what sentence this vile piece of garbage gets. Of course, none of it of which will bring back dear Henry.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning to all of my viewers and listeners, including Elon Musk. Good morning, Elon. Talk Breakfast, 3 minutes past 8. Mark Dolan with you till 10. Dolan's Dispatch on the way. I'll be tackling our broken policing and judicial culture, and I've got a fix for it. Dolan's Dispatch in an hour's time. Breaking this morning, Elon Musk backs Talk Breakfast, sharing an exclusive interview from yesterday's show on his social media platform X. We're going to play that interview shortly. It's myself and Ben Habib talking about broken policing and broken courts. So that's Talk Breakfast. 8 million views and counting. The world's richest man backs our campaign to find justice and answers around Henry Novak, a man that was handcuffed and arrested as he bled to death. Now, alongside Elon Musk, we are calling for the authorities to release the body cam footage. Let's get answers and let's get justice. Meanwhile, the BBC banned Farage as it's revealed the Reform UK leader is unwelcome on Desert Island Discs. Why? Because an appearance from the leader of Reform UK would upset woke corporation staff. You couldn't make it up. Does the BBC have a left-wing bias? Your thoughts, your calls, please. 0344 499 1000. And do you still have faith in British policing and justice? It's all about your opinions on the noisiest breakfast show on the planet, which now boasts Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, one of the most powerful men in the world, as a viewer to the show. Good morning, Elon. I'm told he's produced fewer Teslas in the last couple of days because he's so addicted to the show. But what do you think about this, folks? Does the BBC have left-wing bias? Do you still have faith in British policing? And I had a right old ding-dong with retired cop Peter Bleksley in the last hour. I detest, I hate, I loathe, I am furious, I'm upset about racist language. But should you ever arrest and handcuff someone for bad words? Let me know your thoughts on that. 0344 499 1000. Incitement to hatred and violence, obviously unacceptable. Bad words, I'm not so sure. What do you think? 0344 499 1000. Let's talk. Now, I'm delighted to say that directing our TV output this morning is the brilliant Nehar. So if you are watching the show, like Elon Musk, who watches the show, then all you got to do, head over to YouTube, search Talk, and up we pop. In fact, Nehar, do you want to give the camera a bit of a wobble? Come on, let's do this. There it is. That is a digital wave from my brilliant digital producer, Nehar. Folks, so much to get through. The BBC, does it have a left-wing bias? Let's kick off with a voice note from Helen.
Hi, Mark. I used to listen to 5 Live all the time. For about 9 years, I listened to 5 Live. And that was because my ex's radios were all tuned to 5 Live in his house, and that's how I discovered it.
I'm glad he's your
But then
ex.
I bought a radio, secondhand, which was tuned into Talk. And I have to admit, and I hate saying this, I prefer Talk. I don't think the BBC is biased so much, but I do think that Talk is more honest, more open, more able and willing to discuss subjects honestly without, and maybe that's the difference, without holding anything back. So maybe the BBC just doesn't go that bit further, which is actually needed to get to the truth. So actually perhaps they are a bit biased towards the left because they're not really telling it how it should be said, if you know what I mean.
Well, Helen, thank you for that. And I think that's what we tried to do. We're not stitching up any argument. As I mentioned earlier, my producer, Ted, and also Dean Spencer, the architect of Talk Breakfast, we're constantly putting bids in for Labour MPs and for the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer. I would bite your hand off for an interview with Keir Starmer, and I would let him speak. And I'd let him explain why his economic policies have brought back inflation and unemployment, and the highest youth unemployment in the whole of Europe, which is going some because no one in Spain works. I'd love to have Zach Polanski in the studio, the leader of the Green Party, the man that I like to refer to as Captain Cleavage. I might bring Mrs. Dolan in at the same time and just see what happens. But that's the point, that this show is for everyone, including my brilliant voice note listeners. Here's Alan in North Yorkshire. Good morning, Alan.
Hi, good day, mate. How are we going?
I'm very well. Lovely to have you on the show. What do you think about this? Peter Bleksley, retired cop, says that actually there are certain words you should arrest someone, they should go in handcuffs. I'm not so sure. What say you?
Well, I'm probably one of your older listeners, viewers, rather. And back in the day, when I was a young'un, there was something called common sense. I don't even know if anybody under 25 would even know what it meant. But in any event, This is the crux of my argument: is you can only be offended if you want to be. Now, obviously, common sense kicks in a little bit here as well. Obviously, there are words and deeds that you can't do because it's just not right. Regardless of whether it's using words that are pejorative or whatever.
Yeah.
The common sense bit kicks in there. But you could say anything that your head could dream of to me, and I won't be offended. I absolutely promise you I won't be offended, because I choose not to be offended. And I think that's a lot of people, and I'm not really up on the email. What do they call those things? Facebooks and things like that.
Oh yeah, all the social media, X, Facebook, Instagram, yeah.
And Twitter or whatever it's called.
That's a good name for it.
I think it's brilliant. I thought about it years ago. Called it Twitter.
You know, Elon loves this show.
Yeah.
So I've got to tell you, Alan, I'm not even joking. Elon may well be watching now. He's shared my interview with Ben Habib yesterday. So what do you think of that?
I think it's brilliant. I think Elon, I don't know much about him except for he's an extremely wealthy man.
Yeah.
But the Mr. What was his name yesterday?
Ben Habib.
Mate, if we had 500,000 people like him running the country, black father, white mother, not a word of racism came out of his body.
No.
Not a word of racism is in his head. And, you've just got to stop being offended at everything. Not just racism, everything. I opened a door for a woman the other day when I was going into the co-op, and she said to me, "You don't have to hold it open for me because I'm a woman." I said, "Madam, I'm opening the door because I'm a gentleman."
Well said. Well said. So she was almost offended by you being a gentleman.
No, she's not almost offended. She was really offended.
Ridiculous.
I mean, so that's what I'm saying about being offended. If you choose not to be offended, just you can only really, I suppose, be offended if somebody you love and care for does something brutal. I can't think of an example, but I don't know you from a bar of soap other than I see you on the TV, and I'm sure you're a super bloke and a moral bloke.
I hope so.
Well, I probably know so. And I think that you don't go around offending people or being offended.
No.
How many times are you offended on the average day?
Oh, well, 0. And, Alan, you're right, because I'm a public figure. I'm on the radio and on the telly. People share my clips online, and sometimes people attack me. And, Alan, they're entitled to, because if I'm going to go on the radio and the telly ranting and raving with my opinion, people are entitled to disagree, and I think they're entitled to have a go, because one of the other things I do, Alan, is stand-up comedy, and you have hecklers, and good luck to them. If you're on stage with a microphone, then the heckler is entitled to interact, and your job is to put them down.
Yeah, but even so, you don't have to be offended. And I just don't get it. Why so many people wake up every morning and go, right, what can offend me today? I swear to God there's people that wake up and think that.
I got the answer, Alan, I believe. I think that they are not offended. I think that it is a game for them, and it's a way of shutting down debate and silencing people. I think they're not offended.
Well,
they're pretending. It's fake outrage. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, okay, I get it, yeah.
So they'll get you on, Alan, right? You'll talk all your brilliant common sense, and they go, "Oh, Alan, he's far right, he's this, he's that." And all it is, they're trying to... Well, exactly, but that's what they do.
No, I'm centre right, I would say I was. And if Nigel Farage doesn't beat that other idiot, Burnham, I'll be suicidal, mate, I tell you.
Oh, man, you poor... No, never go there.
No, I jest slightly.
Yeah.
Don't be offended.
I know. I've fallen into that trap. Alan, before I let you go, by the way, poor old Nigel can't get on Desert Island Discs on the BBC because the corporation staff would feel very unsafe if he was there. It would be dangerous for them if he went on the show. What do you make of that?
Well, 2 points. Lucky Nigel that the BBC don't want him. And secondly, we've all known for years that the BBC is as bent as a corkscrew. How they keep getting that? Was it 9 billion a year, 16 billion a year?
Well, what it is, we pay 160, or is it 180 now, Ted? It's gone up, hasn't it? I lose track. They get the direct debit from me so I can pay for Zoe Ball's earrings. But it's 3 billion from the licence fee, 2 billion from income. And it's £180 from you and me, Big Al.
Well, yeah, I mean, I never, ever, ever watch BBC, ever, unless there's a football match on. Because there's nothing. I listen to Woman's Hour when I'm driving to go and see my wife, who, as you probably know, is Paulie.
I'm sorry.
And I drive to the unit, and Woman's Hour, it is so trite. I mean, you've got to be a special sort of moron to want to listen to that stuff.
Well, it's just an hour of moaning, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
That's what it is. I've listened to it. Yeah. It's an hour of moaning.
And I'll tell you something, mate. There's not a men's hour, take note.
That's what this show is. No, I'm only kidding, Barry, because, of course, we've got a gigantic female audience. Alan, I loved our conversation. You are a hero. Please call me again soon. What a great set of points you've made. Have an excellent Sunday. That is Alan in North Yorkshire. Big Barry is in Norwich. Hi, Barry.
Good morning, Mark. How are you?
Very well. I really want to have this debate. Should you arrest someone for the wrong words? What's your view?
Now, I had to Google this before I rang just to make sure I was right in what I was going to say. All right?
Go for it.
In the Public Order Act, it says that using threatening or insulting words is part of the Public Order Act, that there being an act of Parliament. Yeah, right. Where you can be arrested for using threatening and insulting words. Now, I agree with Peter somewhat. If you are, say, a police officer outside a pub or outside a nightclub, and it's going off either verbally or going to get physical, and someone shouting insults to each other, and all of a sudden one of them shouts, the N word, then I think probably just to de-escalate the situation, you want to be clonking one of them in the back of a car for a 15-minute cool-off period.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. And possibly after they've cooled down, say, you need to say sorry for what you're saying. If not, you're going to be arrested. Yeah.
Well, you're a very smart man, Barry, because what you've done is you've kind of contextualised the racial slur within a violent setting and a setting of conflict, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm 56 nearly, so back in the 80s, I loved my old school hip-hop, and one of my favourite hip-hop groups was NWA. Now, the first name of their group is the N-word, with attitude, yeah?
Yeah.
And I had that album cover on display in my bedroom. Yeah.
So therefore, in a sense, you've put something up on the wall which is a slur without intending to.
Yeah. But I think one of the things that is missing from the police now in this country is the word discretion. At the police officer's discretion.
Good luck with that. But whatever happened to that?
It's gone. Like when they changed the name from police force to police service. They became everyone's social worker.
And when they started putting rainbows on their cars.
Exactly. Yeah, they've been captured by this left-wing political ignorance, I call it. Yeah, where they're just, more happy. They want to be painting their cars, like you say, with rainbows, and meeting targets and all that sort of stuff, and not actually going out and policing the place and doing what they're supposed to do, which is prevent crime.
Barry, amen to that on a Sunday. Let's speak soon. Thank you for a great call, Barry. Have a lovely morning. Lots more to come. Should we ban cousin marriage in the UK? I'll be speaking to a top expert next whose answer will surprise you.
they found a label now, Ian, which allows them to sit at home on tablets, wasting their time.
Wow.
You know, you've got the welfare state, I've already said, wonderful thing, isn't it? But a safety net, not a way of life.
When you're talking about crimes as vicious as rape, if someone is capable of doing that, they're a threat to society.
If they don't know that all of these things are wrong, then by definition, we need them off the streets.
This is the worst one I've ever come across.
But it's where you've got with this woke, fluffy, liberal, progressive nonsense about anti-racism.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
You are listening to Talk Breakfast, Elon Musk's favourite show, 8:20. Now, folks, lots of stories to get through. What about this? The front page of the Mail on Sunday. Reform leader ruled out of Radio 4's show to avoid upsetting woke staff, biography claims. BBC bias row after Desert Island Discs ban Nigel Farage. Let's get reaction from a very good friend of mine, a lecturer, commentator, podcaster and political theorist, Ralph Scholhammer. Hello, Ralph.
Hey, Mark. Did you introduce me before as a leading expert on first cousin marriage? Did I get that right?
Well, you're an expert on everything as far as I'm concerned.
Well, that's very kind of you.
I've got another thing to say. If you were my first cousin, I'd marry you.
Oh my God, oh my God. I think we definitely need a law against that.
Only because you're so handsome. And listen, Ralph, let's talk about this. Great to see you again. I want to get to cousin marriage shortly. But can I just talk to you about censorship? Because it comes in different forms, doesn't it? Sometimes you're banned from things because you have the wrong views. But quite often it's more subtle, where you're not invited. And that looks to have happened to Nigel Farage, who has not appeared on the BBC's flagship interview show, Desert Island Discs. This is a guy who won 5 million votes at the last general election. He's the guy behind Brexit. He's the most consequential politician of his generation. And so that's a form of censorship, isn't it? Not being invited.
No, absolutely. And you see the same happening all over the place. I mean, in Germany, for example, they did a recent study how often members of the AfD, right, the Alternative für Deutschland, the Alternative for Germany, are invited on the major talk shows. And they are dead last, which is funny because in almost every talk show, they talk about the AfD. So we are reaching this very interesting new phenomenon where we constantly talk about and I'm using scary quotes here, far right or extreme far right, but we barely ever see a supposed member of them or anybody who could speak on their behalf on the relevant talk shows. So no, you're absolutely right. That is a form of censorship. I mean, it's just with the news, right? The people you invite, the news issues you pick to report about. I mean, this, of course, in itself can be biased, and very often it is.
Well, most definitely. Have you appeared on Julia Hartley-Brewer's show on this network, Ralph?
Not in a while, but I have in the past quite regularly. Why? Am I being censored too?
She won't have you. She doesn't like Austrians or German. No, I'm joking. Of course.
That is a lie.
That's what.
That's fake news.
That is definitely fake. No, because it was really interesting because I was talking to Julia a few weeks ago and she raised this issue about the BBC. And she told me, Ralph, that she used to be a regular on shows like Have I Got News for You, which is a comedy show here in the UK, news satire. And her view is that actually organisations like the BBC, which have probably a sort of leftist bias, a sort of progressive leaning, won't invite you onto these shows because they're worried you'll be too good, you will make sense, you will say things that the audience agree with, you will come over well and undermine their narrative.
No, I think that's very true, because one of the weapons that the right at the moment tends to be, not all the time, to be better than the left, is that they have a better sense of humor. I mean, look at all the late night shows and the supposed comedy shows. What they try to elicit these days is clapter, right? I mean, they want the audience is supposed to clap, but not to laugh. Because what makes you laugh, Mark, right? What makes you giggle? If something is being said and then it's like a sneeze. You have an involuntary reaction. And this happens mostly if it is something that you're not supposed to say. But we are increasingly living in a society where we are being told there's like a million things you're not supposed to talk about. And the first thing that dies is comedy. So it's kind of funny that the counterculture is now the conservative movement and the self-declared counterculture is actually the mainstream. I always find this very entertaining.
Most definitely. And I'm happy for there to be left-wing comedians on TV, right-wing comedians, centre ground, people who are not political at all. But what's interesting, Ralph, now is you have what I would call regime comedians who are there to protect the political status quo. I would give as examples not just the BBC, Desert Island Discs, and also Have I Got News for You, which we're going to be discussing later with the Hamiltons, because they had a discussion about Reform UK and Restore, and it was sneering, arrogant and dismissive. But you've seen it in the United States with late night talk show hosts who you mentioned, who have shifted left, and their opening monologues are no longer jokes. It is a lecture. People aren't laughing, they're clapping. And those shows are getting record low figures. The public aren't interested.
Yeah, of course, because nobody likes to be lectured if they expect to be entertained. I mean, I can just recommend to any of your viewers, I mean, look at TV shows in the UK and the US, you know, from the 90s and even the early 2000s. I mean, you watch something as innocent as Friends, and there will be jokes where you say, you could no longer say this today, right? One of the most innocent TV sitcoms ever being made. We've become a very boring age, I have to admit. Like everything that's supposedly eccentric, transgenderism and, you know, LGBTQ is actually kind of boring. And it's even more boring because nobody's really allowed to make fun of it. So that, you know, the new joke is more or less, you know, whatever, you know, how many drag queens does it take to change a light bulb? And the answer is that's not funny. And this is kind of the world that we live in.
Friends, please don't even mention it. It's far right now.
Oh yeah, it's horrible, right? I mean, they actually make gay jokes. You know, oh my God, you can't do this. I mean, as I said, or you know, the real fun is playing with stereotypes. But we are supposed to pretend there is no such thing as stereotypes. So what are you supposed to make fun of? It's I mean, except of course, you know, the middle-aged white male. You know, and which is fine by me. You can make fun about bald Austrian guys with German accents all day long because I have a sense of humor. But most people on the left don't.
Well, I did insult you, Ralph, and I used a hurty word, which is I accidentally used the G word, which is German. I'd like to apologise.
Well, you also called me the world's leading expert on first cousin marriage. I have to put this on my business card, but...
Well, listen, you are an expert on these cultural issues, which is why you have a very big audience online with your podcast, Hammer Time, all of your videos, your appearances on this network and many others. Let's talk about first cousin marriage and cousin marriage. So I understand that there is either a law that's coming or it's already happened, but Sweden are looking at banning cousin marriage. What's your reaction to that?
Well, my reaction is the same as it was after the Southport stabbing, right? Well, all of a sudden you had this discussion about banning knives. The reason why first cousin marriage is legal in Austria, why it's still legal in Sweden, I think it is at least partially still legal in the UK, is because nobody did it. Right, you know, you might have the odd couple from somewhere who did it, but it was nothing where the lawmakers had to jump into action because it happened so rarely. But if you now have entire communities where I think 60 or 65% of marriages are between first cousins, where you then of course have the consequential health consequences, then all of a sudden, right, you need a law for it. But this is the big problem all over the West. We now constantly have to create laws so the state can manage the failed experiment of multiculturalism, right? We will need laws against polygamy. We need laws against first cousin marriage. We need laws against stabbings in the streets. We didn't need this in the past because we were a civilized society where many things were simply intuitively known, right? There were things you simply did not do. And if somebody at the fringes did it, right, you could afford some tolerance. But if it's 60, 65%, you can no longer afford this. This is like another one of these elements, what I always used to say, where our societies are actually regressing in a civilizational sense, which is one of the reasons, if you allow me to be a little bit more provocative, why I think that in certain cases we have to return to the death penalty, right? This thing, if your civilizational level is declining, then your kind of punishment to kind of get back to civilization has to increase. I'm very sorry to say this. I mean, it hurts me, but we brought this, or our leaders, if you want, those in charge, you know, the Boris Johnsons and the Tony Blairs, who, by the way, is currently making a 180 on all of these issues, quite surprisingly. They brought this upon us. And, you know, I'm sure that our next generation will be dancing on their graves, and justifiably so.
Most definitely. And there are people, Ralph, who have horrible, awful opinions, but history demonstrates it's better to air those opinions so they can be condemned, debated and dismissed.
But we don't do this anymore, right? This is the big problem, once again, with Islamization, because you can no longer openly mock, debate them and whatnot. What I always find so entertaining, and what I love the English and the British for, like when you had this very small, you know, Oswald Mosley fascist movement in the 1920s and 1930s, everybody was making fun of him. The reason why fascism never get a foot down on the ground in the UK is because you mocked it endlessly. But you cannot mock Islam in the United Kingdom because you put your life at risk. So what you were just saying, that, you know, we have to air all these views and then we can debate them. No, there are certain things you cannot debate because then you're Islamophobic. That's the best case.
I know.
Or you'll be killed in the worst case.
Most definitely. And Ralph, on this issue of cousin marriage, I remember when we had this debate about a year ago, and many of my viewers and listeners didn't realise that it was legal. There was an assumption that it wasn't legal, but it does happen. What do you think about the idea of a ban, of the state intervening in that way?
Well, as I said, as a general rule, when it happens very, very rarely, as it did in the past, which is when nobody was thinking about it, I think it's fine to keep it legal. But once again, the reason why we want to outlaw it, it's the same debate in Germany and Austria, is because you now have an entire segment of the population that does it, you know, more than 50, 60, 65%. But this bothers me so much. Because
this is not two people falling in love who happen to be cousins. This is by design. This is a cultural practice.
Oh, and by the way, as a final point, it's not gonna work, because then they're just gonna get, you know, married abroad in Pakistan and they're gonna come back. So this idea, it's the same. They tried in Egypt to ban female genital mutilation. And the effect was that from 90% of the girls being mutilated, it went up to 95%. So this idea that you can just simply outlaw something that people want to do, particularly if they don't respect your laws and if they don't respect your values and traditions, it's not going to work. So cousin marriage will go on. You just have a law against it that nobody's going to obey.
Let's talk about Europe. It's a continent I love. It's a continent that we all inhabit, because it's easy to forget that the UK is an absolutely critical part of this continent. Can Europe be saved, Ralph? Because you've told me in the past that when it comes to our civilization, our democracy, our society, it's 5 to midnight, metaphorically. What are your latest thoughts on the future of this once great continent?
Well, I stand by what I said, right? I think it's still not too late. But of course, the longer you wait, the more difficult and the harsher the regression to the mean, or to the, you know, to the reasonable center, whatever you want to call it, is going to be. But I'm no fan of Tony Blair. I don't want your viewers to misunderstand me, but I'm quoting Tony Blair. He wrote in his most recent article for the Tony Blair Institute, by all means necessary, right, you have to do something against illegal migration. Now, for me, all means necessary includes also the concept of remigration, and this has to happen. I mean, you saw it in the elections now. If you look at the polls, from reform to restore, this is still the dominant issue in the UK, and I would argue all over the West, because the first step before you can reform your country is you have to save your country, and migration is the existential question that comes before everything else.
Most definitely. And actually, a story crossed my path yesterday, and it is the prospective President of France, Bardello, his name is that right? Bardella, right? And this is the guy that would be a presidential hopeful in France, and he backs Nigel Farage's immigration policy and his efforts to stop the boats, and he has said that France will join in efforts to stop those boat crossings. So change is coming potentially.
I mean, generally, this is a good thing, but I would say that at the end of the day, migration policy is something that, at least to some extent, every country has to decide for itself. I assume the UK managed to defend its borders, or to prevent an invasion by Nazi Germany in the 30s and the 40s. So I assume they can also stop small boats coming from France. This issue has always been a lack of will, never a lack of feasibility. I think that's very important. The open borders policy was an open borders policy, and you have to replace it with a closed borders policy. But I think that the political and the cultural and the commentary establishment is yet not willing to say it and ultimately to do it. So once this changes, right, I think we can actually have meaningful reform and meaningful change. But that's the big issue.
Many thanks to my first cousin, twice removed. Ralph,
thanks, Mark.
Wir sprechen bald. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. Love having you on the show, Ralph Schulhammer, political theorist. Do check out Hammer Time, unmissable stuff. Well, that was the message that we were looking at yesterday. The French presidential frontrunner, Jordan Bardella, says he will allow the UK to push back illegal migrant boats, and he backs Farage for Prime Minister. So could France go from worst enemy to greatest friend when it comes to tackling illegal immigration? So much to get through now. Does the BBC have a left-wing bias? Do you still have faith in British police and our justice system? And should you ever be handcuffed and arrested for the wrong words? Your calls and voice notes next. This is Talk Breakfast.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
You are listening to Talk Breakfast. Dolan's Dispatch at 9 a.m. My solution to our broken policing and judicial system. Let's get some voice notes now. Nicola Sturgeon, you won't believe this, is complaining that the attacks on her are because she's a woman, and nothing to do with the fact that her ex-husband is a crook, a thief, a fraudster, a scammer, a liar, a cheat, a criminal. You couldn't make it up. Here's Boz on Nicola Sturgeon moving to England, folks.
Hello, breakfast team, travelling Boz here. So the latest news, what is it, Sturgeon? Yeah, the one who didn't know that anything was going on. You know, widow cranky, she looks like. She wants to move to England, the place she wanted to have complete independence from. I tell you what, she'd fit in quite well over in England, especially with her lies. I didn't know this, I didn't know that. Sounds like a perfect new cabinet member with Starmertoff and his cronies. And I think what would be a nice gesture, if they had the balls to do it, is next week when Parliament resumes, take the knee for that Novak. A sign of respect. I think you'd get a lot of respect from people if they took the knee for that. Have a good show.
I completely agree. Should you ever be arrested and handcuffed for saying the wrong words? Here is Cindy.
Hi, Mark. This is Cindy in Michigan, United States. I don't believe that, in my opinion, that anyone should be arrested for using the N-word. Black people call each other the N-word. If that's the Orwellian case that we're going to start arresting for hurty words, it's Orwellian. That's what it is. And we should just, okay, if we're going to start arresting for this, we should just strike the N word from the English language and no one can use it. Because Black people even call each other that. It shouldn't be okay for them to use it and white people not. And then there are hurty words against white people. So and there's no proof when someone calls you a word unless you have recorded it. It's just my opinion for what it's worth. Thank you. And great show. You're a superstar, Mark.
Oh, no, you're too kind. Cindy, thank you for that. And thanks for a very compelling voice note. This is Eugenie.
Good morning, Mark. Super show. I love your show and I love you, Mark.
Oh, thank you, Eugenie.
I'd like to make a simple point which frustrates me because whatever the police think when they arrive at a scene, no matter what someone's done, when a person's lying on the ground and they're seriously injured and losing blood, surely the first priority should be to preserve life. We often see police and emergency services administer first aid, even to people accused of the most horrendous crimes, because preserving life comes first. So I ask again, why was the focus on restraint rather than immediate medical assistance? Like I say, some videos you see of live TV when they've disabled a shooter who's carried out mass shootings, the first thing they do then, when they've disabled him, is to then administer first aid to that shooter.
Yeah.
So I don't understand why they didn't help this young chap, and their first priority was to restrain him than to preserve his life. Thank you, Mark. Eugenie from Bexhill-on-Sea.
Eugenie, thank you for that. A great voice note. And thank you for your kind words about the show. Talk Breakfast is nothing without you. This is an example. It is the manifestation of people power. What about arresting people, cuffing them for a racial slur? I'm not saying an example of gather all brown people and kill them. That is incitement to violence. I'm saying devastating racial slurs. Do you get arrested for that? I don't think you do. But what does Alan think? Take a listen to this.
Hello, this is Alan from Thetford again. I'm 79 years old. I've heard all sorts of good and bad. As we used to say at school, I can speak two languages, good and bad. If you run to the teacher and said, he's called me names, they used to say to you, sticks and stones may break your bones, but words will never hurt you. And I agree with that.
Alan, you put that really well. Here's Damon.
Morning, Mark. Damon from Wigan. What is going wrong with this country? You're guilty now until proven innocent just because you're white. Everybody's racist towards somebody who's white. I am a man of white heritage. All my family are white. But yet, I'm going to be seen as guilty for anything until proven innocent. It's ridiculous. How have we got to this point now where being white is automatically classed as racist? Absolutely disgraceful. And the police should know better. All this division within this country now is getting well out of hand, and it is not in the white woman's favour. Thank you, Mike.
Well, Damon, thank you for that. And the dream would be a colourblind society. But the progressive left don't want that, because they, for example, want to have segregation, such as black-only audiences at the theatre, so that people of colour can watch a show without, and these are not my words, this is leftist propaganda, the white gaze. These people are the real racists. I will never forget, Ted, you won't believe this. Do you own a North Face, any North Face devices? It's a very expensive premium brand, isn't it? Gore-Tex is the North Face. Dave, have you got any outer gear like that? Okay, well, I bet Rory does, because Rory is a little bit of a clothes horse. He's the best dressed member of the team. He's a fine figure of a man. North Face do these anoraks, and they do trainers, and they do... And look, I've got no problem with North Face. Lovely products, no problem. But they had a promotion, and this is when you purchase one of their anoraks online, that if you filled out a unconscious bias form, you would get a discount. That was the thing, Dave. The Gore-Tex, very expensive, 200-300 quid, but you'll get a discount if you fill out an unconscious bias form. And one of the questions in this form for your discount was, when you were last in the countryside, how many black people did you see? That was in the form. Now, just let that sink in, because, folks, what does that mean? That means that they want you to go to the countryside and count black people. You're in Shropshire or Derbyshire. You're in the Yorkshire Dales. You're in Cornwall. You're in the Peak District, the Lake District, and you're counting black people. And that's progress. No, it isn't. I would humbly suggest that's a racist thing to do. So that's why I think this whole thing is crazy. My dream is a colourblind society, which is the dream of my hero, my political hero, Martin Luther King, who said we should be judged by the content of our character, not the colour of our skin. But the left, the progressive left, have gone completely mad and made everything about skin colour, which I think you'll find is racist. We've got developing news. Elon Musk loves Talk Breakfast, and he watches this show. And in the last 24 hours, he shared on his social media platform X my interview with Ben Habib. Elon Musk is watching this show and is sharing our interviews from Talk on his platform. Currently on 9.1 million views. Let's take a edited version of my interview with Ben Habib as shared by Elon Musk. Take a listen.
The presumption, I think it was 3 women officers came to the scene and found Novak on the ground. And the presumption in their minds was the white guy must be guilty. Yeah. And when the Sikh guy with his kirpan accused him of racist comments, well, that was enough, because dirty words have now become the new criminal. What the police are targeting is criminality. And he didn't apparently say anything racist, by the way. No. But even if he'd said repugnant things, abhorrent things that you and I would find unacceptable in polite society, that is no excuse to get a knife out and stab the guy.
So much more to come. My thanks to Ben Habib, by the way. What a heroic figure he is. And I'm glad it's gone viral. And I'm really glad that Elon Musk is such a big fan of the show and that he shared this interview. This is Talk. We're massive now. We are absolutely massive. And that is one clip from one show that's on 9.1 million views. It's going to be eventually, when it all comes out in the wash, it'll be 15 or 20 million. And I'm so glad. And that's why this place is special. But we can't do it without you. So next up, your calls with a bunch of questions. Should the BBC let Nigel Farage do Desert Island Discs? Because his biographer says that Farage is banned from Desert Island Discs because woke BBC staff would feel unsafe if he did the show. How unsafe are they going to feel when he's Prime Minister? What are they going to do then? Let's hope they emigrate, actually, because I don't think we need these illiberal idiots who are very often not that economically productive. Folks, so much to get through. Nigel, the BBC, hurty words. Should you get arrested for them? It's all to come. It's your opinions next. Don't go anywhere.
They found a label now, Ian, which allows them to sit at home on tablets, wasting their time.
Wow.
You know, you've got the welfare state, I've already said, wonderful thing, isn't it? But a safety net, not a way of life.
When you're talking about crimes as vicious as rape, if someone is capable of doing that, they're a threat to society.
If they don't know that all of these things are wrong, then by definition, we need them off the streets.
This is the worst one I've ever come across.
But it's where you've got with this woke, fluffy, liberal, progressive nonsense about anti-racism.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Front page of the Mail on Sunday. It takes a lot to surprise me. I've been around the block a few times. Not quite veteran, but I'm experienced. BBC bias row after Desert Island Discs bans Farage. This is a man that is probably the most consequential politician of his generation. And the reason I say that is because without Farage, there's no Brexit. Without Farage, there is no Brexit. Yes, Boris got it across the line. My friend Lord Frost negotiated the deal. Yada, yada, yada. Farage is Brexit. Brexit is Farage. And yet, he doesn't get to go on Desert Island Discs. But shall we have a look at who has been on Desert Island Discs? Over the years, Margaret Thatcher. In my view, a truly extraordinary politician, a very authentic politician. We could die for leadership like that now. She could save Britain, in my opinion. She got a lot of things wrong. She abandoned mining communities. The poll tax was a hot mess. She stopped listening to people towards the end. But she had a decade in power. Compare 79 to 90. In 1987, with her third election landslide, economic growth was, are you ready for this? 5.4%. We were a global economic, military and diplomatic powerhouse. She and Reagan ended the Cold War and brought down the Iron Curtain. And she won a war. And she took on the unions. And she liberated the working class. That's what I call leadership. Anyway, by some miracle, Thatcher got on. They wouldn't have her now. They would not have Margaret Thatcher on Desert Island Discs now because she has conservative, right-leaning views. And they'd be terrified that she would go on there and people would agree with what she said. Because what the BBC don't want to do is feed the monster of populism. Margaret Thatcher's been on there, John Major, Tony Blair, Gordon Brown, Charles Kennedy, may God rest his soul, Lib Dem leader. Diane Abbott, you're absolutely right, the countdown queen herself. Little Miss Mathematics has been on there. The numbers queen. Boris Johnson's been, I mess up my hair, Boris Johnson. I've been on Desert Island Discs. Wonderful. Theresa May, who recently called herself proudly woke. The reason why Theresa May, Ted, has been on Desert Island Discs is because she's very left-wing. The BBC love Theresa May. Are you kidding? She called herself proudly woke recently, and she signed us up to the net zero targets that even Tony Blair says are crazy. Nicola Sturgeon's been on there, who I've got to say has made my day. Because, first of all, apparently the big problem is she's a woman. It's got nothing to do with her criminal husband, who is a scammer, a thief and a crook. It's got nothing to do with Peter Murrell. It's all because she's a woman. You wouldn't believe this, folks. I've got to say sometimes that truth is stranger than fiction. She tried to break up the UK, which is a terrible idea. But notwithstanding her desire for Scotland to be independent, she's now moving to England. She's looking for houses in England. So she's abandoned her own country, one that she wished to rip from the heart of our union. Keir Starmer's been on there. Oh, my father was a toolmaker. And Kemi Badenoch. Well, how on earth Kemi Badenoch slipped through the net is anyone's guess. Here's a voice note on the BBC from Phil.
It's Phil from Shropshire. Regarding the BBC, I am absolutely sick and tired of what little bit of BBC I watch. It's always in support of Hamas or Hezbollah. Only this morning, Mark, with apologies to you, I watched a bit of BBC News at about 6:15.
Oh, for goodness sakes.
The review of the papers.
Phil.
It was the Daily Mirror, the Observer and the Guardian.
No.
It's just lefty.
Oh.
Great show, Mark.
It's an outrage, isn't it? And here's my point, Phil. I want all opinions. You guys know me very well now. Have you ever heard me belittle someone? Have you ever heard me shout someone down or be rude to someone that I disagree with? It wouldn't happen because I believe in the competition of ideas. But what do the progressive left do? They shout at you, they do labels, they storm out of the room because they're illiberal and deep down they know they're wrong. Peter is in Liverpool. Good morning, Peter.
Good morning, Mark. What I'd like to say is that the police seem to focus on one side of society with regard to racism. We've had marches every week, Palestine marches, some totally abhorrent chants, and yet nobody's arrested for it.
You're absolutely right, Peter. You're gonna handcuff someone for a racial slur, but what you're not going to do is arrest someone who says globalise the intifada, Peter, which, as you know, means bombs in shopping centres.
Well, I heard one where they was chanting shoot him in the neck like Charlie Kirk.
So, yeah, if you didn't hear that, Peter, the line's not the best to you, but shoot them in the neck like Charlie Kirk is what you just said there. Charlie Kirk, a conservative activist in America, killed in cold blood by a protester. So, yeah, I mean, you're right. It's double standards, isn't it, Peter?
It is absolutely double standards, and this is what we're putting up with in Britain. But what I does like to ask is that if a police officer puts a uniform on, where do they actually draw the line? Do they have any morals, standing themselves, where they say, I'm not going to go and knock on someone's door at 12 o'clock at night when I hate each tweet. And, doing things like that, there has to be a moral standard where you say, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
But the police officers seem to be doing it.
I mean, do you think, Peter, you and I would agree, I'm guessing, that racial slurs are deeply, deeply wrong, horrific and terrible? We would agree, I suspect, on that. But I don't think it works to handcuff and arrest these people.
No, I grew up in the 50s and 60s. And, I worked on a building site and you hear all kinds of things every day.
I bet you did.
It's just words. It's just words, that's all. And it's the same applies to these Palestinian people. We disagree with them. We don't want them, but we put up with it.
You put up with it.
But, when this kid that was killed the other day, things like that happening, it's going well and truly beyond the normality of life. I do not see a police officer on the street now and look at them in the same way. I don't have the same trust, especially after these things that are happening today.
That's really sad, isn't it, Peter?
It is sad. As I said, I grew up in the 50s and 60s where you respected the police and this is what you were taught to do. I've always obeyed the Lord in my life, but I feel like you could fall foul of the Lord now by, I don't know, just simply living your life. It's kind of.
Well, I totally agree, Peter. Look at Lucy Connolly. Lucy Connolly sends a message, and she goes to jail for a year, Peter. I hated her message, but it's free speech. She actually deleted it and apologised for it. She sat in a prison for a year.
But with Lucy Connolly, there was no consideration whatsoever for her personal situation.
Correct.
She lost a child. Her husband's got cancer. It was abhorrent.
And she apologised and she deleted it.
Yeah. I mean, it was ridiculous. She served longer.
Peter, I wish we had longer, but we've got to get to the news. Loved our conversation and really enjoyed your company. Peter, call me again soon. So much more to come. Is it appropriate to be handcuffed and arrested for the wrong words, even if they are horrific? Let me know your thoughts, 0344 499 1000. Britain's broken policing and justice system. My solution in Dolan's Dispatch next.
You know, you have to remember that Peter Murrell has been the chief executive of the SNP for nigh on a quarter of a century. He's been with Nicola Sturgeon since 2003. She said that she didn't have access to his personal records. They had separate bank accounts, so we can take, well, what you want from all of that. The list that you gave is unbelievable. 124,000 in a camper van, Fortnum and Mason's picnic hampers, a couple of lawnmowers, one for 3,000 quid, three Davic Savile umbrellas, £970. The list goes. A wine coaster. I needed to look up what a wine coaster was. 3,500 quid. So the list goes on.
When you're talking about crimes as vicious as rape, serial murder, really depraved crimes, it's quite clear to me that the usual considerations around whether you should be lenient because of this context, whether or not there should be more room for rehabilitation in that context, just don't apply. From the simple commonsensical basis that if someone is capable of doing that, they're a threat to society.
But this is the thing,
I don't want to take that risk.
If these kids genuinely, you know, and they are kids, everyone involves a kid. I mean, it's just absolute travesty. If they don't know that all of these things are wrong, then by definition, we need them off the street.
Yeah. So there's now a label for children who skip school. You know, parents can't sort it out. In the old days, I used to think that skipping school was against the law. You know, and parents used to be taken to court. Well, no longer anymore. They found a label now, Ian, which allows them to sit at home. Again, I keep saying, on tablets, wasting their time.
Wow.
Universities. Let's get everyone going to university. Well, I think a fundamental job of education is to prepare children for the society they're going to live in a positive way, i.e. prepare them for a job. You've got the welfare state, I've already said, wonderful thing, isn't it? But a safety net, not a way of life.
Henry Novak's last words were, "I can't breathe," as he was handcuffed, having been stabbed not only in the front but in the back as well, Okay, he stabbed him in the chest twice, stabbed him in the face once, stabbed him in the back of the leg twice. I mean, what an attack. Let's wait and see what sentence this vile piece of garbage gets. Of course, none of it of which will bring back dear Henry. May his soul rest in peace.
It's just so shocking, Pete, I mean, we're so used to criticising the police for mistakes. This is the worst one I've ever come across.
But it's where you've got with this woke, fluffy, liberal...
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Three minutes past 9. Good morning, Elon. Happy Sunday, one and all. You are listening to Talk Breakfast, and breaking this morning, Elon Musk backs Talk Breakfast, sharing an exclusive interview from yesterday's show on his social media platform X. 9.5 million views and counting. The world's richest man backs our campaign to find justice and answers around the death of Henry Novak, a man that bled to death whilst being arrested and handcuffed by cops. We want answers here at Talk, and Elon wants them too. Meanwhile, the BBC banned Farage as it's revealed the Reform UK leader is unwelcome on Desert Island Discs because an appearance from the leader of Reform would upset woke corporation staff. Oh dear. What are they going to do if he becomes Prime Minister? Meanwhile, a shocking example of left-wing bias from the corporation on Have I Got News For You, in which they attack and sneer at Nigel Farage and Rupert Lowe. We've got the clip, but what do you think? Do the BBC have a left-wing bias? I'll be asking Britain's favourite political double act, the Hamiltons, in just a few minutes. But the conversation I want to have this morning is several-fold. Do the BBC have a left-wing bias? Is British policing and justice now broken? How do we fix it? And is it right or wrong to arrest people and handcuff them for saying the wrong words, even if those words are horrific? What do you think about this? Is it free speech or is it a criminal act? I think it's a problem because it led to the death and an awful end to this young man, Henry Novak. Let me know your thoughts. My phone number is 0344 499 1000. Text the word talk in your message to 87222 or leave us a voice note. I've got the dream team today. Rory is taking your calls. Dave, the engineer, pressing the buttons. And I've got to say, there's a hideous tug of love at the moment between myself and Talk Sport for Dave, the engineer's services. And I've actual showdown with not just Alan Brazil and Jeff Stelling next week, but Ray Parler as well. We're going to sort this out over drinks. But he's with us today, which is why I can't lie, I feel like I've never sounded better. The excellent, the marvellous Ted Jeffrey is our executive producer. What's happened is Dean Spencer, he's back in rehab. He's drying out after... It was curry night at Wetherspoons on Thursday, and he's still not right. Nehar is directing our TV output. You can hear the show on the radio, but you can watch us, and you can watch Dolan's Dispatch in 1 moment's time. Head to YouTube, search Talking Up, We Pop, We Love Nehar. She knows my best side. She's got all my angles. Folks, it's all about your opinions. 0344 499 1000. Your calls in a moment. Let's talk. But we will kick off, as always, every Friday, Saturday and Sunday at 9:06 with Dolan's Dispatch. Now, you get some politicians struggling to define what Britishness is. It's like a gotcha question, and they get all tongue-tied. Well, I don't struggle with that question. I know exactly what Britishness is. It is good humour. It's having a laugh, not taking yourself or life too seriously. It's being friendly and decent. It's looking out for your friends, family and neighbours. Britishness is community. It's a few pints after work or a cheeky 1 or 2 at lunchtime. It is sport, board games and recreation. Britishness is tolerance, open-mindedness, it's democracy. It's live and let leave, each to their own. It's a full English breakfast, it's fish and chips, and yes, it is chicken tikka masala. Britishness is mustn't grumble. It's an obsession with the weather. It is queuing. Britishness is the wave to the other driver or a flash of the headlights when they let you through. Britishness is getting on with it. It's a love and respect for the past, and it's about a hungry appetite for the future. It's absolutely about comedy and great pop songs as well. There are a couple of other things which are British, which are more prescient, more topical, more immediately relevant. And those two things are fairness and law and order. And that's the reason why the Manchester airport story and the Southampton teenager story have struck such a chord and have made people so angry and so sad, because what has happened in those two cases that I'll come to is deeply un-British. That's why both of those stories feel like a moment for the country, maybe a wake-up call for those who hadn't realised that the Britain that I've just described is slipping through our fingers at an alarming rate. There was nothing decent or British about letting a teenager bleed out of his own body in handcuffs following a false accusation of racism by his murderer. Woke ideology and an obsession with racism and skin colour meant that the officers who restrained poor Henry Novak didn't have the basic empathy to protect, take care of and reassure a dying man, or should I say, as one of my viewers pointed out yesterday, a dying boy. Henry was 18. And in the last moments of his short life, as they played out, he begged for help. "I've been stabbed," he said. "I can't breathe. I am bleeding." Their response? I don't think so. Ideology makes you very stupid because you stop thinking. You lose critical judgment and you get rid of common sense. But ideology makes you utterly heartless too. Henry Novak was stabbed multiple times and then effectively was trolled and abused by police officers in the aftermath. I'm amazed they're still in a job. I'm amazed that this is not a George Floyd moment for the country. I'm amazed that the authorities are not looking at manslaughter. And I say that because this is a man that's been stabbed. They had a duty of care towards this lad. And he's bleeding out of his own body. And they handcuff him and tell him that he's lying. What they should have said is, "You're going to be okay. An ambulance is coming. We've got this. You hang in there, buddy." Instead, the lad gets labelled a racist as the final breaths leave his body. Now, this obsession with racism and skin colour is antithetical. It is alien to, it is the opposite of the British way. And the British way is about being fair-minded, free and tolerant. And until immigration got to insane levels, the British people, by and large, were incredibly welcoming and tolerant to folk from overseas. But identity politics and a hierarchy of victimhood based on skin colour, religion or culture is now where we are. It's identity politics and it's the opposite of Britishness, because the point is, whatever our skin colour or our religion or our faith or our culture, we've got to be British. That's got to be the thing that unites us. But the progressive left, they love themselves some division. Now, multiculturalism, which is a socialist ideology involving immigration without the expectation of integration, is chipping away at what Britain is all about. This doomed multicultural experiment, which has produced ghettoised societies, pockets of intolerance, misogyny, anti-Jewish hatred, medieval worldviews, has been allowed to fester in the most un-British way imaginable. And that's why Henry happens. That is why the Manchester 2 happens. Our once colourblind society can now barely manage to enforce the rule of law, something that we effectively invented. With two thugs violently attacking police officers at an airport without consequence, without a trial. They walk free and we pay their legal costs. In the end, all of this is woke political correctness. It's identity politics, and it's diluting and, dare I say it, demonising British culture. And it's creating a country that is unrecognisable from the one we used to inhabit. Now, I took a call yesterday from Peter, a British man of Indian background from Bombay, who told me on this show that the UK has changed so much since he arrived, and changed in a way that he does not see as progress, changed in a way that he does not welcome. I wonder whether it's ethnic minorities folks in Britain who may actually ultimately save us, given that they understand the value of what we once had and which we are close to losing. I've said it before and I'll say it again. We have a successful multi-ethnic society. I'm an Irishman myself. But the multicultural experiment has been a catastrophic disaster, and the weaponisation of race, religion, skin colour and culture is destroying this country. And with these two stories, Henry Novak and Manchester Airport, it's struck at the heart of British policing, which was once world-class, and our judicial system, which has been a foundation of justice and a template for justice around the world. We've shown the world the way, and now we've lost ours. We don't need to make Britain great again. We need to make Britain Britain again. A diverse community wrapped around one set of values, one set of rules and laws, and one flag. This isn't about skin colour or religion. We all want our country back. 03444991000, your reaction. Dan is in Liverpool. Good morning, Dan.
Good morning, Mark. I hope you don't mind. I'm going to go on a bit of a rant here.
Please do.
I'm going to say this far left Tony Blair multicultural dream is turning into everyone else's balkanisation nightmare. I'm someone who's mixed race. I've got a Persian dad, as you've known me speak before, and an English mother.
Yeah.
I've been brought up from both sides. We need to bring people who love this country, and people who don't love this country, you can get them a first plane out of here. And the way these police have been, I don't care if someone's racist. And I'm going to have people disagree with me. I've even had members of my family look at me as if I'm stupid, and I do not care. It shouldn't be a crime in the UK to be racist. If someone wants to be racist to me, they have full freedom of speech to do that, and I have full bodily autonomy and full right in this law and this beautiful land to not associate with that person if I don't want to. Any company should be allowed to hire anyone they want. If they want to hire someone who's racist, I have a freedom of my own pocket not to go to that company, or I can go to the other person who is good in that company and say, there you go, you get my money, you don't.
But also what happens, Dan, is you have a hierarchy of offence, don't you? So quite rightly, the N-word is horrific, unacceptable and wrong. We can all agree on that. But if you use an anti-Semitic slur, such as from the river to the sea, which involves getting rid of Israel altogether, wiping it off the map, that is accepted in polite company. And that's the problem. It's not consistent.
The only consistency seems to be there is no consistency, Mark, unfortunately. And honestly, I don't think we'll ever see the footage of the body-worn camera from most police officers, because I don't know. I'm not going to say anything, but from what I've heard, if that footage gets out, it's going to be so damaging for the police. And if the roles had been reversed, if the police had done this to a black lad who had been stabbed by a white lad, what would Britain be looking like now?
There would be a few things, I think, Dan. There would be marches on the street, and rightly so. And Sir Keir Starmer would be on his knees in number 10 alongside Angela Rayner for a photo opportunity. And The Guardian would have 10 pages on it.
Oh, Keir Starmer would definitely be on both knees.
Dan, the crazy thing is, you are a British man of mixed race, and isn't the dream, isn't the point, a colourblind society, so I don't care what you look like? You're British.
I don't care what anyone looks like. I don't care. I just want people to love this country. I want someone... I would generally take a bullet for the flag if that's what it's meant. I love this country to every breath. This is the greatest land that has brought so much to the world. And it starts at the schools, because schools right now are teaching kids to almost hate our history, to hate in this land, to hate our culture. How can we have a next generation of success when all that gets taught is to hate what's come before it?
Dan, thank you for a brilliant call. Go and have a lovely Sunday, and we will speak very soon. Dan in Liverpool there, who is a British man of mixed race background, who is very unhappy about the idea of policing racial slurs, even though we can all agree they are horrific. I think it's a problem if you're cuffing people, because what happens is Henry Novak, a man falsely accused of racism, bleeding out of his own body as he's handcuffed by woke coppers. You couldn't make it up. More to come. What do you think about this? Should you be arrested for using a racial slur, for having the wrong words? And what about British policing? Do you still have faith in it? Do you still have confidence in it? I'll be asking the Hamiltons next.
They found a label now, Ian, which allows them to sit at home on tablets, wasting their time.
Wow.
You know, you've got the welfare state, I've already said, wonderful thing, isn't it? But a safety net, not a way of life.
When you're talking about crimes as vicious as rape, if someone is capable of doing that, they're a threat to society.
If they don't know that all of these things are wrong, then by definition, we need them off the streets.
This is the worst one I've ever come across.
But it's where you've got with this woke, fluffy, liberal, progressive nonsense about anti-racism.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
9:20, you are listening to Talk Breakfast, and with me now, Britain's most popular political double act, Neil and Christine Hamilton. Hello, folks.
Good morning, the top of the morning to you, Mark.
I'm not sure everyone would agree with you, Mark, about most popular, but there we are. It's great to be with you.
Oh, listen, you've got so many fans out there, and you've done it in the world of entertainment as well as politics. And in fact, Christine, you've been on Have I Got News For You, haven't you?
I have. It's funny you should mention that. We've both been on. We were both on together once, and then I went on my own. And that was the very last time that the great Angus Dayton appeared, because Angus used a word about Neil that I will not let pass in my hearing. Other people use it when I'm not there. That's fine. And I just turned to him, and I don't know how to do that, but I think I pointed at him. How do I get the finger right at somebody's face? And I was that far from his face, and I said, Angus, my husband does not commit adultery. My husband does not sleep with tarts. My husband does not snort cocaine.
Yep.
If anybody is disgraced around here, it's you. Dead silence. Angus, to his credit, he held my gaze. And then he turned to the camera and he said, thank you for making that clear, Christine. He was gone. After that show, Paul Merton and Ian Hislop went to the producers and they said, look, this is ridiculous. The guests are on to be made to look stupid and made fun of. If Christine Hamilton can make Angus look like that, then we really have hit rock bottom. He must go. And so Angus went, and I think it was a great shame because I don't think it's been the same since.
I don't think it has.
Very responsible, I know.
No, all they've done is replaced Angus with regime comedians and regime entertainers that protect the status quo, as demonstrated by Have I Got News For You this last Friday, I think it was, Ted. Let's take a listen to a rather sneering diatribe about politicians on the right.
It's getting down and dirty, though, at this by-election. Yes. Everybody is going for their social media, millions of viewings of Restore, because up until now, I'm not sure that many people had heard of the party, or even perhaps Rupert Lowe.
Lowe was most famous for standing on the cliffs in Great Yarmouth and said, look, there's a boat full of illegal immigrants, call the Coast Guard, which they did and found it was a charity row. Some Olympic
Marines,
athletes.
were they ex-Marines or something?
Yeah, and he said, I won't apologise for my vigilance.
What amazes me about Have I Got News for You, Neil, is they spend about 27 out of the 29 minutes talking about Conservative politicians, neglecting to realise we have a Labour government.
Exactly. Well, I mean, Ian Hislop is, of course, a centrist dad, isn't he? He's expressed a bottomless admiration for Vince Cable, and if he had to found a political party, it'd be the Vince Cable for Treasurer Party. Well, anyway, if you're a Lib Dem, I mean, with a leader like Ed Davey, they're beyond parody and satire anyway, aren't they? So you could hardly make fun of them because they do it so well themselves. But I agree with you, and this is true of a lot of stand-up comedy, of course, is that they're all on this sort of mushy leftist wing of politics.
Yes.
And you couldn't get a gig at one time if you were known to be on the right, could you? The world of comedy was not really the world of comedy at all, because so many of these shows are absolutely dire because they're so predictable. And I have to say this about Hislop and certainly Paul Merton. I think Merton is a comedy genius because he's such a brilliant improviser.
Yeah.
But can they find no humour in what's going on the left? I mean, good heavens! I've realised that there is not much difference between laughing and crying when, in many respects, where you look at the left, because they're such a tragedy for all of us. But so many of them are beyond parody themselves, and I would have thought there's a huge amount of fun that could be had by making fun of them. But you don't see it on Have I Got News for You?
No, all they talk about on these shows, Christine, is Donald Trump and Nigel Farage.
Of course.
To be honest, I'm not an expert any longer. It used to be, and I'm sure a lot of people viewing and listening will agree with this, it used to be required viewing every week because it was funny, it was, to the point, it was great. You couldn't miss it. Now, when did we last watch it? Goodness knows, decades ago. I can't be bothered because it isn't funny for the reasons you've just discussed. It's so predictable. I haven't watched it for, 15 years or something.
Well, television's for appearing on anyway, not watching, isn't it?
Yes, to paraphrase Noel Coward. And we also have another BBC-related story, Neil. Front page of the Mail on Sunday, BBC bias row after Desert Island Discs ban Nigel Farage. This is according to Lord Ashcroft, whose new book on Nigel Farage is coming out shortly. It's surprising, isn't it, Neil, notwithstanding whether you like or don't like Nigel Farage, that one of the most consequential public figures of the last 5 decades hasn't been on the show.
Oh, it is absurd, isn't it, considering he's been on Question Time more than anybody else, I think. But no, it is ridiculous. Apparently because some of the staff feel that they wouldn't be safe if he was in the studio, whatever that means. I've been closer to Nigel than most people, and I've very often had great disagreements with him, but I've never felt unsafe. And of course, what they feel unsafe about is that their opinions are going to be challenged, or they think they are. At any rate.
Yeah.
And that's the problem today, that we've got a generation of snowflakes that isn't capable of defending their corner, and therefore they have to cancel people with different political views.
It isn't just a generation of snowflakes, it's their whole culture within the BBC. That is the problem. And it is, frankly, it's absurd that Nigel hasn't been on, whether you love, loathe or whatever him. Kemi Badenoch's been on, Keir Starmer's been on. He is one of the most consequential politicians.
Diane Abbott's been on.
Diane, they've all been on, and except not him. I mean, I don't expect he cares to. The trouble is that a Desert Island Disc is designed to make you look cosy and fluffy, and it's to bring out your best side and all your little childhood reminiscencing. That's the problem, and they don't want Farage to be portrayed as, God forbid, cosy and fluffy.
Well, you've nailed it, Christine. That's the bottom line, is that these figures on the right do not go on the BBC because I think producers are terrified that they will come across well and terrified that people will agree with them.
Yeah, and they'll come across as normal and actually rather fun and quite nice.
I mean, that's why the viewing figures and the listening figures for the BBC have shriveled over the years. It's not just because the number of platforms that are available to watch or listen has vastly increased. It's because You know, they're appealing to an ever-diminishing audience, and they've become an irrelevance to most people, particularly young people. Who listens to the BBC or watches the BBC? We don't watch mainstream channels very much at all, and I'm sure that's true of tens of millions of people in this country. And because the BBC is publicly funded, of course, we're forced to pay the license fee. The cold winds of competition don't feature in their programming decisions.
Most definitely. Meanwhile, Nicola Sturgeon, the former leader of the SNP, has been speaking to the BBC's Laura Koonsberg. She's welcome because, of course, she's a big lefty. And she was talking about, just this morning, actually, the jewellery that her ex-husband Peter Murrell gave her that turned out to be purchased with stolen cash. Let's take a listen to Nicola Sturgeon speaking to the BBC.
In 2019, I'd been campaigning a lot in Shetland, and we went to visit, as part of the campaign, we went to visit this amazing business, the Shetland Jewellers. And I was being shown around the shop, and I stopped at this pendant. I mean, you've seen pictures of it, it's beautiful. Later that night, Peter said to me, "I've got a surprise for you." And I saw you admiring this pendant and gave me it. Sorry. I loved that necklace and I wore it a lot, and this is the other thing. The idea that I would have gone about wearing things that I had known were anything other than what they were presented to me as a gift from my husband, and to then find out that these were gifts given to me that he bought with the party's money causes a level of, I don't know, pain, bewilderment. I don't know, I'm not sure. I'm going to try. I'm just not sure I will ever properly come to terms with that.
Christine, pass me the world's smallest violin.
Yeah. Well, you'd have to have a heart of stone not to laugh, wouldn't you?
Listen, she picked on something, the pendant. Well, a Shetland jeweller, the pendant wouldn't have cost very much. Nobody is thinking that she would have thought that pendant came with stolen money. I don't think that. I believe her. She didn't know that. But it's the coffee machines and the cars and the this and the that and the other.
And let's not forget the hairdryers. Peter Murray is totally bald, so why did he buy 2 hairdryers?
Exactly. And probably a hairbrush and a comb as well.
I know. I mean, we didn't see the full interview because, as Neil has explained, we don't watch the BBC. Right. But, you know, she picked on the one thing that people would not be surprised that she didn't think was bought with borrowed money.
What about the £125,000 camper van that suddenly appeared on the drive in a puff of blue smoke? Well, actually, it's parked at his mother's house, I think, but she visited that house too. So it doesn't stack up, does it?
It doesn't.
Well, no,
But
Neil, it must stick in.
She's a great actress.
Oh, she's a great actress.
That was a very good interview. Well done, Nicola. But we're laughing, aren't we? We're not sympathetic. We're laughing.
Oscar winning. It was better than Gwyneth Paltrow in Shakespeare in Love. Neil, does it stick in the craw for you to have endless headlines about so-called Tory sleaze when you have this Sturgeon SNP scandal, obviously focused on and relating to her husband, and you have a current Prime Minister, a multimillionaire ex-lawyer, whose spectacles, suits and tickets to the Arsenal were paid for by a wealthy donor? I'm so confused, I thought sleaze was exclusive to the right.
Well, that's the way the left would have you believe, isn't it? But, of course, corruption comes in many forms and at many levels. I don't regard a lot of the so-called sleaze stories as about corruption at all. But that's the way the tabloid media, of course, inevitably are going to present it. So I don't lose any sleep over all these chickens now coming home to roost for many people who had a lot of fun at our expense many, many years ago. We're talking about events in our case which were alleged to have taken place 40 years ago. And here we are today, and we've got bigger scandals than ever.
And how about, Christine, reports that Nicola Sturgeon, who once led a party called the Scottish National Party, apparently browsing properties in England?
Oh.
Well, I know. Well, it's a little bit like Angela Rayner, who represents a constituency in the northwest, buying a flat in Hove. Right. I mean, what are they doing? I know. Well, I think she wants...
That's a love nest, though, isn't it?
Apparently, it's for the best of reasons. Angela Rayner, this is. It's because she wanted her partner, Sam Tarry, to be able to be close to his children, and they are down there. Apparently, that's her excuse. Doesn't explain the stamp duty business, but there we are. Now, I think she possibly wants to leave Scotland way behind. If I was her, she's reputedly now living with a lady. If I was her, I would just want to close the door on my Scottish episode and try and start again down south, as far away from Scotland as I could possibly go.
I'd suggest North Korea, actually.
The only issue I've got, Neil, if Nicola Sturgeon comes to live in England, would that qualify, you're a lawyer, would that qualify as illegal immigration?
Well, there'd certainly be undesirable aliens coming in, I think.
With her pendant.
With her pendant.
I don't think it would do much for property prices in that area either.
No, most definitely. Well, look, I'm so excited because Britain's favourite political double act are going to stay with us, and what's going to happen next is that Neil and Christine Hamilton are going to take your calls. So book your place on the show.
I didn't know that.
Yes, indeed.
Very good.
You can charge extra for that. 0344 499 1000 is the BBC institutionally biased. What do you think? Should they have Nigel Farage on Desert Island Discs? Is it unfair? Is it the right thing? Let me know all of your thoughts on that. And Neil and Christine, have a think about your Desert Island Discs. We'll get to those next.
Oh, crumbs.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
A 9:35. Who listens to Desert Island Discs anyway, says Anne in Oakley. With me, Neil and Christine Hamilton. And folks, what do you think then? Christine, what would be your Desert Island Discs?
Well, I'm not sufficiently conceited to have spent much time thinking about it because I was never going to be asked on. Although, I mean, I would love to do it. It's a wonderful programme.
You should be. You're a nationally known figure.
Oh, well done.
Yeah, Princess Margaret did it, so you can.
Yeah, but the only thing is, Christine drinks more than Princess Margaret. I think that's...
Oh, no, I don't. That's a complete lie.
And she
Withdraw
smokes more
that.
fags as well.
Dolan, withdraw that.
She bets on the
hardly
GGs.
smoke. You're not listening to me, Mark. I hardly smoke at all, and I have severely cut down on my drinking, haven't I? Please.
Well, that's actually quite disappointing. Then what would explain for this morning's rather uncoherent performance?
What?
Yeah. Oh,
you
no.
were asking. Let's go back. Now,
I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble with Christine
You've
now.
lost the plot, Mark. You asked us. Listen. You asked us about our Desert Island Disc. Well, Neil's particular favourite, which is a good one to start with. Well, it's
well, to an extent, Desert Island Disc is autobiographical, isn't it? So, my favourite record as a child was Charles Penrose singing "The Laughing Policeman," and I suppose that's pretty current, really, except we can't laugh at the police in their current incarnation, can we?
Well, I think that's very good. That's very good. Anything by the police would work, wouldn't it, right now?
I defy anybody now, if they don't know the Laughing Policeman, Google it, listen to it, and honestly, within a few seconds, you will be laughing. You cannot stop laughing. It's the most wonderful
In
film.
all seriousness, Christine, is there one tune that you would take on the island?
Yes, there is. I would take Liza Minnelli singing Cabaret.
Oh, what a tune, and what an amazing musical that is.
What an amazing musical, and it's kind of our musical for boring reasons, which, you know, fairly obvious but don't need explaining. So we would have Cabaret. I'd want something by Edith Piaf too. I'd want something by La Vie en Rose would do, yes.
Oh, you regret Rianne, don't you?
That's a bit cheesy, isn't it? Too many people take that.
Now listen, Christine, why are you off the sauce? What's going on?
I'm not off the source. You see, you're
Because it's only 10 o'clock, isn't it?
You're misquoting me
Never
again.
too early.
Honestly,
Half
Mark,
an hour to go.
I didn't say I was off the source. I said I had cut down my drinking. I'll say, first of all, because I wanted to, but actually it's a sad fact of becoming an old lady that I just can't take it.
She just can't get to that third bottle anymore.
Well, I like it, Neil, because when she's had one or two refreshments, then we hear what she really thinks.
Oh, dear. Honestly, my cheeks are already bright red. I can feel them going redder.
Well, Neil, I understand that you've picked up the slack for Christine's sobriety.
Well,
You're drinking more is what he's trying to imply.
No, I live on a plateau of serenity. You know, I'm always predictable.
Neil, what about you? What would be your one tune that you might take on the island?
Oh, I think it'd have to be Land of Hope and Glory to remind me of home, wouldn't it?
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, that's a lovely, lovely thought. We've actually got a great voice note on BBC Bias, Neil and Christine. This is from Sue. Take a listen.
Morning, Mark. What is it with the British Bashing Corporation and Nigel Farage? The staff being terrified of him? I don't think so. What's terrifying is that young boy getting stabbed by that Sikh. It's disgusting. This country is horrible. It's just awful. The BBC needs to go. Bye.
Sue, bravo to that. Absolutely. We've got some more stories to get through, Neil and Christine. Kemi Badenoch, Christine, I want teachers and builders to become Tory MPs. Is she right?
Well, it's difficult to say this, having been being married to somebody who was an MP in what I call the sort of glory days of Margaret Thatcher, when we had some really big beasts in the House of Commons. There are still a few, but the standard of MPs, frankly, it's risible. It really is. And, you know, as a country, we deserve better. So whether they're, I've forgotten what you said she wanted, whether they're plumbers
builders and plumbers, teachers.
Builders, plumbers, whatever they are. It doesn't matter what they are in terms of job. What matters is who they are and what they've got up here and what they bring to the House of Commons, what attitude they come with, that it isn't about just a job for you. I mean, all the Labour MPs now are absolutely terrified in case Andy Burnham calls for an election and they're all going to lose their seats. But I mean, nothing wrong with a plumber or a teacher. Heavens alive, there's far too many. I mean, he's a lawyer, so I'm speaking against him as always. There used to be far too many lawyers in the House of Commons, especially on the Tory side. There probably still are. We've certainly got one too many. It's the Prime Minister.
I think, well, if we need more plumbers in politics, I mean, the Reform candidate in the by-election's a plumber, isn't he? So do you think Kemi actually is sending out a subliminal message there?
Well, you never know. It could well be possible. It worked for the Greens, didn't it? Now, Christine, you mentioned a possible snap election. If Andy Burnham does become Prime Minister, he might seek a mandate. Do you think it's possible that he goes to the country?
Well, I think he would be in deep doo-doo with his members of Parliament if he did, because, as I just said, so many of them will lose their seats. I mean, they haven't got a hope in hell of winning an election right now. So I don't think he will. My personal view is that any MP who switches parties, etc., should hold a by-election, and therefore, I mean, you're perfectly within your rights to change Prime Minister. We don't elect the Prime Minister, do we? We elect the party and they choose their Prime Minister, and if they change their mind, that's that. But I don't think he will. I really don't think he'll risk it. We're assuming he's going to win the by-election, which is by far not necessarily the case, if that makes sense.
That's very, very true. Neil?
I think we're at peak Burnham now, aren't we? It can only go one way from here, and that's downhill, because at the minute, nobody's had any experience of Burnham in recent years at national political level, and he's created this great PR machine in Manchester to big himself up. So once, if he does win the by-election, he gets into Parliament, and if he does manage to turf Starmer out, that'll be the high point of his term of office if he becomes Prime Minister, because then he'll have to cope with all the intractable problems that Starmer's had to deal with. But because he's a vacuous non-entity, same as Starmer, he's got no answers to any of these problems either. So it can only go pear-shaped.
Well, that's right. But Neil, what do you think about that possible chance? This is an exclusive from our very good friend Kate Ferguson, the political editor of The Sun on Sunday, that he's considering a snap election if he becomes Prime Minister. I think he might go for it, Neil, because I suspect he would anticipate a hung Parliament and that he thinks he can do a deal with the Greens, the SNP and the Lib Dems to form a coalition government.
Well, Labour would lose hundreds of seats either way. You know, the Burnham bounce would only take them so far, and they've now got a majority of 150 or something, and they wouldn't have a majority at all. In fact, they'd be in a minority. Given that Reform are still on 25 to 30%. And the Tories have come back a bit under Kemi Badenoch as well. They're up to 18 or 19, which is the same as Labour nationally. If there was a Burnham bounce of 3 or 4%, it wouldn't actually take them very far. So I think it's very unlikely that we would get a snap election, actually. But let's hope. Bring it on, I say, because in the course of an election campaign, I think a lot of things could happen. You know, Theresa May started the campaign in 2017 ahead in the polls and ended up disastrously losing. So I think Burnham would be much in that position.
And don't forget, Burnham's waited all his adult life to become Prime Minister. If he achieves it on the 18th of June or shortly thereafter, he's not going to risk having to give up the keys to number 10 within a few weeks or months, is he?
Well, he could actually beat Liz Truss as the shortest lasting Prime Minister.
It's not impossible, is it? Christine, you may have cut back on your drinking, but it's a tonic to have you on the show.
Will you stop talking about my drinking as though
You're
I'm...
more bubbly than a glass of champagne. And can I say another thing? Whenever you're on, you go straight to my head.
Thank you, darling. Well, you're the only person I'll get up for early. Well, to me, it's early anyway, on a Sunday morning. I know it's probably nearly 10 o'clock now, but in order to be camera ready, you have to get up quite early.
Christine's got up specially for you this morning, Mark.
Of course I have. I normally stay in bed till midday on a Sunday.
Christine was born camera ready. We love having you both on the show. You've got an army of fans out there. Neil and Christine have an excellent Sunday, and we cannot wait for your next appearance. I think you'll agree. Entertaining and also talk a lot of sense. Neil and Christine. Honestly, quite remarkable. So much more to come. We are Talk Breakfast, which is Elon Musk's favourite radio and TV show. Don't go anywhere.
They found a label now, Ian, which allows them to sit at home on tablets, wasting their time.
Wow.
You know, you've got the welfare state, I've already said, wonderful thing, isn't it? But a safety net, not a way of life.
When you're talking about crimes as vicious as rape, if someone is capable of doing that, they're a threat to society.
If they don't know that all of these things are wrong, then by definition, we need them off the streets.
This is the worst one I've ever come across.
But it's where you've got with this woke, fluffy, liberal, progressive nonsense about anti-racism.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, folks, we've got to get to this by-election story. There are so many good candidates. Your job is to choose your favourite one. This is Makerfield 2026, and here are your candidates. Jake Austin, Liberal Democrats. Count Binface Party. Andy Burnham, Labour and Cooperative. Dan Clark, Libertarian. John Dyer, Independent. Ed Gemmell, Climate Party. Paul Gould, Independent. Howling Loud Hope, official monster raving loony party. Robert Kenyon, Reform UK. Robert Pownall, Independent. Rebecca Shepherd, Restore Britain. Sarah Wakefield, Green Party. Peter Ward, Rejoin EU, and Michael Winstanley, Conservative Party. A fresh nightmare for King Charles as it's revealed that Buckingham Palace were handed Andrew Mountbatten Windsor's controversial envoy emails 6 years ago. Let's get reaction from one of the most respected journalists in the country, the editor-at-large of the Mail on Sunday, Charlotte Griffiths. Good morning, Charlotte.
Morning.
Thank you for joining us. Another royal bombshell.
Yeah, this is the moment that King Charles and the royal family have been dreading. It's the moment when the media attention, the public's attention, turn away from Andrew and his sordid lifestyle and his buffoonery to, well, hold on a minute. What was the process around this? Why is it that the Queen really pushed her son into that role? And I know we all have a lot of respect for the Queen, but, you know, people have been asking that question a lot recently. And also, how long did the royal family, the Lord Chamberlain, all these very important people, these men in grey suits, how long did they know about what he was doing while he was a trade envoy? And what he was doing was finding out information and pushing it to his rich tax-dodging friends. And actually what we find out is, well, we know that the Mail on Sunday, nearly 7 years ago, was pushing this under the noses of the Lord Chamberlain and the royal household, and that they were also leaked a huge cachet of emails several years ago. And basically, they must have known or turned a blind eye or just looked away, which is, of course, what the royal family used to be known for, just burying their head in the sand, turning a blind eye, hoping it will all go away. It never, ever does. This is something I think Prince William, by the way, will completely turn on its head when he becomes the king, because all it's doing is kicking the can down the road. And they should know better than any institution that after a while, once the scandal dies down, then the process and the system around the scandal becomes the focus. And this is the uncomfortable truth for the king today.
Can the Andrew story ever reach a conclusion? Is there any way that the king and the palace can stop the bleeding, Charlotte?
I don't know if it can, because there's so much more to come. You know, the police investigation's still ongoing. And now they've got to answer questions about why they turned a blind eye, why they palmed off the Mail on Sunday, you know, nearly 7 years ago, when we put all this information right under their noses and indeed into national newspapers. And they just, you know, they're so systematically used as an institution to just passing us off with a kind of press statement, you know, we are looking into it, or it is being handled, or something really sort of nebulous and non-concrete. So I think they can't stop the bleeding. I wonder whether what William's big, huge project will be as soon as he becomes king, or in the build-up to being king while he's the Prince of Wales, is finding a way to stop this repeatedly happening. Because if it's not this, it'll be something else, and it will go on for years to come.
What levers might William pull? Because you've told me on this programme in the past that William has been very concerned about the reputational damage from Andrew for years and years and years. So what can William do in the absence of the title Duke of York and Prince Andrew? What else can you do with Andrew?
I think he'll allow him to live in exile. Obviously, he's been stripped of everything he can be stripped of. But what William can do now is be less opaque about the processes around the royal family. Right. And he's already starting to do that. He's starting to, you know, he's selling off £500 million worth of the Duchy of Cornwall estate. He's starting to be a bit less obscure about his tax goings on. I think maybe that's what he'll do. He'll try and deflect attention towards a new era of modern monarchy where everything, the cards are all laid out on the table. And I think that includes the properties, the tax, the behaviour of, you know, royal family members in roles like the trade envoy role. And, you know, what exactly they get paid. What do Beatrice and Eugenie get knocked off their rent at St James's Palace? All that kind of stuff. I think if he really laid his cards on the table, that could lance the boil once and for all.
Well, that's got to be the hope, hasn't it? Do you know much about William's relationship with Andrew over the years?
I think non-existent. And you were so right to flag that he has been railing against this for years, because we know now that he actually stood up to his grandmother, the Queen, when she was still alive, and King Charles, and said, this man has got to go. He's dreadful. You know, don't let him destroy the royal family. And they basically ignored him. So, I mean, we've known for years that William and Harry don't have any relationship with their uncle, really. And, you know, blockades were put in his way, and he was too young, and he wasn't the Prince of Wales then, so William couldn't do anything about it. But I bet he's very resentful now.
Let's talk about the Sussexes if we can, Charlotte, because you know as well as I do that Rob Shooter is quite a well-connected journalist. He's got the Naughty But Nice Substack, which is pretty good for royal exclusives. And his insiders are telling him that Meghan wants Harry to make some money. According to this insider, they've got to keep the money flowing. Meghan finally told Harry he needs to step up financially, Charlotte. She's driving the business deals, managing the brand and thinking about the future. Harry still approaches life like a royal. He's going for purpose-driven work. She wants a few dollars. Your reaction?
I think Harry's done absolutely everything to try and cash in on his royal name, and presumably it was Meghan driving that, because before he met Meghan, he would never dream of writing a book like Spare, which exposed every secret of him and all his family. He signed up to every Netflix deal. He did his funny acting thing when he pretended to get a message from Beyonce on the Netflix show. I think he's done a pretty good job of monetizing himself for Meghan. So how much more juice is there left in the lemon for her to squeeze?
Well, you have to wonder. I mean, that's the issue for Harry, isn't it? Because in the absence of spilling the beans about his family, there doesn't appear to be an awful too much else on offer, really. What else can Harry do?
Yeah, how else can he monetize himself? This is a man, he went to Sandhurst, didn't go to university, hasn't got a degree, doesn't have great A-levels. He's not qualified to do anything except be royal. And maybe be in the army, but he's left the army now. He can't really go back in. And he's left the royal family, and he definitely can't go back in. So, you know, by removing him from being a member of the royal family, she took away the only job he really knows how to do and can do well.
Yes, and of course the focus is the charitable concerns, but the philanthropy's not great either, is it, Charlotte? Let's have a look at the rap sheet. You've got Archwell, which is the couple's charity, which appears to have effectively been shuttered with key members of staff quitting. Then you've got Sentebale, the charity that he co-founded in the memory of his mother Diana, over which he's lost control. Then there's Invictus, which is losing sponsors. And then there's African Parks, which stands accused of having operatives in their ranks who are abusing and raping tribes in Africa. So the charity stuff is not exactly a safe haven for Harry, is it?
No, absolutely not. The African Parks thing is obviously horrifying. It's been rumbling on for years. Sentebale was a real shock. And then there's Invictus. We always thought Invictus would be his safe space, to use probably one of their own woke terms. But no, even that's, you know, not looking like it's too healthy. He's desperate to get some publicity for it this July. I think he's coming over the 10th to the 17th of July. And he really wanted to meet in public with a member of the royal family, preferably his father, to generate some attention for it, because it's in a year's time. And I don't think that's going to happen. I think he's going to come. I think it's going to be very lackluster. No wonder sponsors are pulling out. I think if Invictus goes, I just don't think there's anything left for Harry other than to rejoin the royal family. And we all know he won't be very welcome.
It's so difficult, isn't it? How would you appraise Harry's mental state at the moment, Charlotte? I know you're not a mind reader, but you've reported on the royals for many years. Just looking at the body language, the public statements, the interviews, do you think Harry's happy?
I don't think in public he looks very happy at all. I think he looks absolutely miserable. And I did actually hear something quite recently about how in his free time, apparently he just loafs around in the garden playing one of those, I don't know if this is true, playing one of those tennis games where there's a pole and you hit the tennis ball and it goes round and round in circles.
Yeah, you see, you're too young to know about this, Charlotte. It's called swing ball.
Oh, well, I thought, is that not a metaphor for where, if it's true, if that's not a metaphor for where he is now, just sitting in the garden, pointlessly hitting a tennis ball round and round in circles. And I think that's where he is. I think he's in a no man's land. And I think that you can tell that when he's out with Meghan. You can tell she's got real purpose and drive, whether that's disastrously kind of manifested itself or not. You can tell she walks into a room, she holds herself, she has presence. You know, I think it's personally very fake, but he just looks lost and miserable and uncomfortable. And I actually sort of hope he can find a way to get back to the UK, because he certainly has disgraced himself on many levels, but you just don't want a man, you know, kicking a tennis ball around the garden for the rest of his life. I mean, it's quite a depressing turn of events, really.
Well, most definitely. And I'm not a marriage wrecker, Charlotte, but I would say that if he were not with Meghan, I think there is a path back to the family and to some kind of royal role. But I just wonder whether, as long as Meghan's there, that's the barrier, particularly for William.
I think so, because I think, William will not have her back in the country. I mean, it's just not going to happen. So he'd have to start making visits here without her, I think. And whether agree to that or not, I don't know. But I can't see a path back for him because he loves his kids and he wants to see them regularly.
Well, look, Charlotte, brilliant stuff. Always love your reporting in the Mail on Sunday. #1 for Royal Scoops. My thanks to Charlotte Griffiths, editor-at-large at the Mail on Sunday. Live in the studio now is celebrity Arsenal fan and talk star Charlie Rowley. Hello, Charlie.
Good morning, Mark. Thank you.
First of all, congratulations on being champions of England.
Thank you.
And, of course, it didn't happen last night. What went wrong? Oh, David, that's very harsh.
Now, this is a stitch-up. This is a total stitch-up, isn't it? We didn't quite make it through the penalty shootout.
Look, I'm a Spurs fan. We've been nowhere near this final. We're celebrating surviving Premier League survival, so I'm not going to be in any kind of mocking position.
Thank
you. I watched it, and I just thought that Arsenal defended too much and should have played a bit of football. What do you think?
I think the strategy was the right one because PSG have got a good attacking line-up. And, you know...